Hey everyone, welcome back to Instant Filter, your source of sports. To those of you who already liked and subscribed, we greatly appreciate you. And to those who are not, please like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials. So today we have a very special episode. Sorry, I know it's been a hot minute, but today we're talking about UFC 300. And today I'm joined by our guest and one of my fraternity brothers and my friend, Stephen Ramos. Stephen, do you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, what's up? I'm Stephen Ramos. I've known this guy for way too long now. Back to the
That's fair.
college days. Currently, I'm involved with the Village Geeks. Be right here. So that is the source for all kind of my nerdy stuff with my friends. We do Magic the Gathering, do video games. I'm playing Dark Souls for the first time on Sundays.
Fire.
So yeah,
Fire.
Cinco de Mayo, we're going to be finally releasing our edited videos and then be posting from there. So we've been building up, but right now you can still catch me on Twitch on Sundays and you can see that stuff afterwards. Now, the other part of my passions in life is combat sports. Since a child, watching boxing with my family, to joining martial arts at 8 because I wanted to be like Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, rest in peace,
There you go.
to competing in college at martial arts. It's been something, a part of my life. My instructor for Taekwondo showed us pride fights in the studio, talking about footwork and the skills they're doing. I like to say I know more about fights than I know about my degree that I use every day at work. I studied for 4 years for my degree. I've been studying my whole life for this, So I'm definitely excited to have a chance to talk about these fights and kind of teach some people some things for it.
That's awesome, man. And I think that's a great way to put it. Because, with me growing up, my dad was very heavily involved in boxing, and so was my uncle.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We've talked about it before. And growing up, I got to watch Pride. I got to watch the Vandalays. I got to watch UFC 1, the Don Fries, the Mark Colemans. I got to watch all that stuff before, it wasn't even accepted yet in the public. And so I got to see a lot of that stuff. And it's really... being able to watch it from back then, I mean, obviously you can appreciate, you and I have had side conversations of man, Vanderlei's a beast, but, does that style translate? And it's well, maybe, depends.
Yeah.
Depends on the fight, right?
Yeah. For so much of it, it's crazy for me to think about it now too, especially with so many people who've gotten into the UFC. It's only grown over the years, right? That how much of the big moments of history of UFC that I got to see and be a part of when it happened, right? That all these people are like, man, did you see this person win by nut shots in the first UFCs? I was like, yeah, man, that was a thing.
Soccer kicks to the head.
Man, I mean, man, I've lived the history of UFC, I had to go backwards a little bit to get those first ones, for my age. But, since then, I remember seeing Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner for the first Ultimate Fighter on TV.
Yep.
All my family losing their minds on it. I got to see Anderson Silva make his debut in the UFC and destroy Chris Levin. Most of my Facebook posts, I look back at the history, and it's just me talking about I can't believe this guy got knocked out or this person got robbed in a fight. So, I'm excited to be able to have this as something different than the Village Geeks too, to still let me do my passions.
Hey, I got a little bit of geek on my side too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said at the top of the episode, we're going over UFC 300, so you can catch it on Saturday, April 13th at 7 p.m. Pacific, and that's at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Honestly, I think the undercard is stacked. I mean, look at it over compared to the main card's good,
oh man,
but the undercard's fucking stacked.
This is one of the most ridiculous cards of all time, right? Leading into UFC 300, there's been a lot of talk of doesn't meet the expectations. And we'll talk about some of the intricacies of it. But reality, right, when we look at the entire card as one, it is one of the most stacked events of all time, right? We have all these people who are right now former champions or big deals on this card from top to bottom. And some people, some great prospects, some big people coming up, right? I think putting this against some of the other legendary cards of history of the UFC, I think it would stack up pretty well. Now, we'll talk about later, what people expected from the main event and that kind of area, the split of the main card. But I mean, in total, this is a fight fan's dream of an event.
Definitely top 5. Arguably top 3, depending on how you look at it.
Oh, yeah.
So, but first things first is we're going to kind of go through top or bottom to top. And that's just because the prelims are free on ESPN, ESPN Plus. And kind of like what Steven said, considering there's a lot of former champions on TV, at like 330. That's crazy. Like, you don't
Yeah,
see that. I mean, that's taking me back to like Spike days. I mean, if you want
yeah,
to
man.
really talk about it, like it's crazy. Like the first, so we're gonna go look at the first fight of the night or the afternoon, I guess technically, right? We have
Yeah.
Davison Figueredo, number 8, making it's his bantamweight bout against Cody No Love Garbrandt. So Figueredo, 22-3, one tie, and that was with Brandon Moreno, who I think is very popular. Most people should know who that is. And versus Kobe Garbrandt, former champion, who's 14-5. So the odds in this fight is you have Figueredo at minus 300 and Garbrandt at plus 240. But be mindful, Figueredo is moving up in weight. He is a little shorter, but both these guys have championship experience. And some of the notable wins for Figueredo is Rob Font. He did beat Moreno, but he's also lost Andrade to Moreno. And honestly, he's fought Moreno a lot. If you want to look at his last couple of fights.
Oh yeah.
And then Cody, I mean, he had a really great start to his career, became champion really early, and then he lost to Rob Font, who they have a common opponent in, of which Figueredo beat, and he lost to Kattar of France by knockout. But he is on a 2-fight win streak, so it will be definitely an interesting fight, in my opinion, to see what happens. But they both have a lot of power, and I think someone's going to get knocked out.
Oh yeah, I think that's almost guaranteed in this, right? We are kind of in an odd spot. They're both former champions. Cody is younger by a few years than Davidson, right? But he's been in the UFC since his like first 8 fights, man. Like he's been here now forever. We got to see him do his quick rise and got to fulfill the Team Alpha Male dream of beating Dominic Cruz in a fashion that blew everyone's mind. The Cody Garbrandt we saw on the day of Dominic Cruz was something special. We got to see him throw out everything he had ever done in fights before of just being a brawler. Like, we know he has boxing skill, former Golden Gloves, all this stuff. And he went in and actually used some of those skills in that Dominic Cruz fight and shocked everyone but Team Alpha Male that day. Right. But since then, he has never been able to recapture that. He went in and spammed hooks at Killashaw twice. He spammed hooks at Pedro Munez. Like, we got to see his chin get cracked plenty of times. And now we're both in this weird spot because David Figueredo, now 36, spent the last couple years of his career just fighting Brandon Moreno over and over again. Right? And didn't always win it. There were tough fights. But he was someone who, how much time does he really have left? Does going up in weight kind of extend it a little bit? And he did just recently fight Rob Font at this weight. We're trying to see how much his power really transfers. Rob Font is someone who the kind of notoriously kind of fragile, where he will win a whole round, get hit once, and kind of break down. So we got to see Davidson really still have some physical advantages on him.
Yeah.
But it's going to be curious to see really what are the skills Cody's going to bring in this. He has in his brain right now, in his body, he has head movement, he has defense, he has some good jabs, all of this stuff that can hurt Davidson, right? Davidson, even with his change, still really depends on his physical nature and stats, right? He wants to be fast. He wants to throw a hard counter when someone throws something at him. And if Cody can play on that, if Cody can bait him out into that and hit him with mean counters, like we know he can, I think he could hurt Davidson, right? Davidson is not the juggernaut he was at bantamweight that he was in flyweight.
Right.
But I think Cody, it's going to be way too hard to teach this old dog new tricks. I think it's too easy for him to revert to his old brawling ways. I'm thinking right now Davidson has the edge on him. Even with his kind of advanced age, I think he still has a bit more toughness, can throw hard and hurt Cody.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So you're picking Davidson for sure.
Oh yeah, I think Davidson. It's a weird close fight. I don't think the odds should be as crazy as they are. Cody at plus 240 is crazy to me because he has the power to just blast anyone out. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you throw $100 to make 240, like go for it, because this is one of these fights where it's going to be. I mean, you know, Cody is bigger than Davidson, and I think that's where it's like it's an interesting matchup to look at. But it's like, yes, Cody's a brawler, but has Cody. I mean, Cody also hasn't shown that he can be the guy that beat Cruz. So it's like if that Cody comes out, he ain't losing because it's his footwork. His footwork was phenomenal, and that's what won him that fight. Is he was over there no looking him, making him miss, and no one really does that to Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz does that to other people. So I think that was like one of the biggest. I mean, I remember when I watched that fight, I was like, "What the hell is happening? Who is this kid?" But yes, he is a brawler. Yes, he's been cracked on the chin too many times. And I would say the reason why I also agree with Davison is because he does come up in weight. That weight cut before was so hard for him that maybe his chin is a little bit better at this weight class because he's not having to drain himself so much. And even though he's shorter, he's bigger, he's more hydrated, and he doesn't have to worry about taking a shot. Whereas Garbrandt is still cutting weight to make 135. You know?
Yeah, I'm gonna say I have no belief that Garbrandt is actually 5'8". Right? I'm 5'7", man. I don't think he is that chunk taller than me, man. I think I'm Cody Garbrandt size. I have Cody Garbrandt reach, right? I'm at his tiny arms, right? Like I'm right at that size. I don't believe he's actually 5'8". I think they're not gonna look that different when it comes to fight day. But he did finally leave, Team Alpha Male a little while ago. So we got to see him do a little bit of change in his last couple fights, but he went against people who were there to set him up. Right. This is now.
I would say definitely if there's an odds, I know there's odds, but I don't know what it is. If you had an odds for someone to win by knockout, take him.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, without a doubt. Like, you do a straight pick, you're going to win your money. Like, I'm fairly certain that that's going to happen. For sure.
Yeah. I don't think this goes to the end.
I'd bet my house on it. I'm not going to. I'm saying I'd bet my house on it. For sure. Yeah. So the next fight is Bobby Green, who's 31-15-1 versus Jim Miller, 37-17. So the odds are actually minus 180 for Bobby Green and plus 150 to Jim Miller. Jim Miller is 40 years old, but Bobby Green's 37.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. I remember Jim Miller fighting a long time ago. I was a kid, man. Jalen, he's fighting on this card too. But he did sub T-Ferg. I mean, granted, T-Ferg now, I mean, but he still subbed him, and I mean, it's still worth something. And then Jim Miller's been on, hey, say what you want. That boy's won 4 or 5. I mean, he hasn't fought anybody crazy. I mean, he beat Donald Cerrone, but
he beat the ghost of Donald Cerrone, man.
Oh, come on. Don't do my boy like that.
Dude, he's shot for a while.
Yeah, no, I agree. But, I mean, he won 4 or 5. But, I mean, he's 40 years old, man. I don't know. Bobby Green is a step up in competition. Bobby Green I think he is ranked. He's ranked number 14 in the lightweight division. So, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, what are your thoughts about this fight?
So, I mean, Jim Miller is the potential feel-good story of this event, right? He was at UFC 100, right? When we talk about old events, he was at UFC 200, and now he's here again, UFC 300. I feel like this is kind of the setup for him to retire if he wins. Give him his end, give him his cheers. Sure. Yeah. I think this could be an exciting thing for him. I mean, he was even something people forget, right? He was out with what's the disease you get from ticks?
Lyme disease?
Lyme disease. He was out for a while with that, right? We had to see kind of how his recovery was going to be. And we see him kind of slow down and then get back into form. But by then he was already older, right? He's missed some opportunities to really get to the top of the lightweight division in a very difficult time. But man, does he have some of the best fights in the division? Was he an exciting man? I hope he can do it. I think it's going to be a real hard test because he was never super quick. And Bobby Green can be hard to hit. Jalil Turner got him being able to do some setups, kind of play on the head movement. I don't know if Miller can do that. He can throw hard and is known to bang. And I think his better chance is going for the takedowns, using his great jiu-jitsu that he's been able to get so many people with. But it's a hard story. I'm rooting for him. I hope for everything he makes it. But man, is it a tough matchup for him?
I mean, I think honestly, yeah, for the story. I mean, it's not WWE, right? You know, these aren't scripted, but I think, well, I don't think I know. Jim Miller's jiu-jitsu and his submission game is next level. And I think even though Bobby Green is fast and strong and quick, you know, he was KO'd in December. And not saying Jim Miller's going to knock him out, but I think Jim Miller gets him on the ground and taps him out. That's what I think happens.
You know, that has been a thing in his career, right? Being able to hurt people, kind of get them in that moment before being able to get them down and submit them. You're right. You know, didn't even think about that. Green had just been knocked out in December. Like, flash KO'd, done, right?
I mean, I read your notes. I read your notes. Let's be real. Yeah. Full transparency, folks.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
That's right. I did put that.
You did put that. I will give you your credit where your credit is due.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, you got Jim Miller. I got Jim Miller. Let's run the plus. Yeah. Let's run the plus here at plus 150. Yeah. But I would say even go a step further and go by submission, dude. Just go for it.
Yeah.
What's it going to hurt?
This is
for all my submission.
This is my feeling one. This is the one I would bet on my heart.
But not the house, folks. Not
house. No.
But so the next fight, this is crazy. This is already two really good fights, which I don't even know if we've had an undercard this good already. I mean, just after the first fight.
Early prelims,
not even the ones that are like the regular prelims. These are like ESPN afternoon, ESPN Plus. You get to search for like 5 minutes to find it. Prelims. The next fight is former champion Jessica Andrade. She's 25-12 against Mariana Rodriguez, and these odds are pretty close. I think actually I'm looking at the live odds of current recording.
Oh yeah,
it's at plus 114 instead of plus 115 for Mariana.
Shifted.
So one. I mean,
hey, a few more days, man.
But man, it's it's a strawweight bout. Freaking Andrade has been absolute killer. Well, in her past, she's been a killer. I mean, I don't know how I feel about now because she's over her last 5 fights. She has 2 wins. She beat Mackenzie Dern. I don't want to talk shit about Mackenzie Dern, but okay,
kind of need to.
Yeah, all right. Like that's not like a Holly. I mean Holly or Rose. Rose. Yeah. Like I mean that was a big win. And Rodriguez, she is 3 of 5 for wins. But she did beat Michelle Waterson.
Yeah, but I feel like Waterson also isn't like a great test at this point, right? She was someone who should have been in the atom weight, the 105 division, right? Fair. Like that's where it was.
What's we don't have though, so
she goes the next 10 pounds up. She's 5'2". She's like around the same height as Andrade without being anywhere near as strong.
Oh, Andrade,
or having anywhere near the power or striking of it. Right. So definitely not like a huge threat.
Hey, she beat Dern. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Give him some credit.
And she also beat Yan Xiaonan, who we're going to see later today too. So like,
which is interesting. And we'll get to that because I saw your notes on that, and I also agree. I'm like, that makes sense for somewhere else. Why here?
Yeah.
I wanted to see my cousin Connor fight, but that's just Irish blood. I'm like, that's my cousin. I want to see him fight. I wanted him to fight Chandler so bad, but hey, it is what it is. But this is a good card. I mean, a good fight. I mean, honestly, I'm 50-50 on it. I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on this fight.
It's definitely tough, right? It's one I've been going back and forth since seeing the fight, right? We got to see Jessica Andrade go through that 3-fight slip. She's tried to go through different divisions when she kind of hit the wall at 115 after losing to Zhang Weili. So she tried going to 125, didn't really have the success there. We got to see her struggle against people. She came back down, still had some struggle, right? But let's look at the list of those last 5 fights. Lauren Murphy was kind of one where like should beat her. Right. Andrade is former champion. She does have power and skills. Then Blanchfield was able to take her down and sub her. Blanchfield being able to use her size, do that stuff. Yan Xiaonan kind of fits in the fighters that have given Andrade struggle of that kind of rangy fighter that can keep her away. Right. For so long, Andrade's just swung hard and tried to grab and throw someone. So she was able to use that long striking, keep her away, and kind of punish her. Tatiana Suarez, then another bigger girl in the 115 division with probably the best grappling of any of those 2 divisions.
Super big for that weight. Super big.
Oh, yeah. And then Mackenzie Dern, who just has 0 defense, man. She has no head movement and no takedown capability, right? So she was just there to get blasted by Andrade. And Andrade looked good in it, right? She did throw. She did get a little bit of movement, kind of get out of the big swings of Dern. But I don't know if she's really at where she was when she was champion, right? She's gone through divorce. She's gone through times. She's gone through struggles and camps, all this stuff. But then we have Marina, who also had her own struggles. She got to show good fights. She didn't have like a terrible fight with Lemos, but then eventually overwhelmed, taken down, taken there. And then Jandaroba was able to do the same thing, take her down, control her, and really get that win off of her.
Well, that almost gives Andrade that kind of advantage in that as the ground game, because Andrade can take people down.
Yeah, it's just, I wonder what Andrade are we going to get, right? It's kind of like the Cody thing again, right? Are we going to get her just wanting to step in and throw bombs? If she is, I think Marina can keep her away, right? Originally, I thought Marina isn't as good as Thug Rose. Marina isn't as good as Joanna Champion. You know, these other strikers that were able just to play her up in the ground. I mean, on the feet.
Right.
But I don't think she has to be at this point. No. I think she just has to land. She is a really big volume striker, but she will be opportunistic and hit that, keep that range. And I think that's going to be enough to win those rounds to beat Andrade.
Right. Well, I mean, she has 5 inches on her. I think the reach is like 3 inches, which is surprisingly isn't as long as I thought it would be. 3 inches is still 3 inches, but I mean, I think it's. I agree. I think she is going to go rangy, but is Andrade going to stick to the game plan and not move from it? Because if she goes and takes her down, she'll beat her by a ground and pound. But she needs to get her down every round and do that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if either one of them is going to knock each other out. I don't see that. I don't think Marina's a submission threat, which Andrade has a lot of struggle with, is with people who are grapplers, or as far as not grapplers, but submission experts. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm still 50-50. I mean, who are you taking? Because I really don't know. And I see here too. You went back and forth too. It's hard.
Literally wrote it down that I don't think Marina is as good as these former people that beat Andrade when she was kind of on it, right? We kind of got to see her back to form, so I was like, all right, I think she has a good chance. And then like I said, faded on it on that, like, Andrade herself isn't as good as she was, and even then she was still kind of limited, right? We got to see some improvements, some changes, but she would kind of regress a little after those fights. So I think I'm going Marina. I think she can win some rounds. I think she's had time to improve. I think the quick thing to talk about, besides just the reach, right? When we look at the height and reach difference, it's more than just the arm length, right? Having that height difference is going to take away from Andrade being able to just step and throw full power, right? When she's at range, you know, it gives Marina more of that chance to be able to lean back. She's a harder target to hit, right? That 3 inches of arm reach is really empowered and exacerbated by her height difference as well.
It's crazy because she's the elder in this fight.
Yeah.
She's 36. Andrade is not that old. She's 32 years old. But I think because of all the wars that Andrade has been in, it's the Cody thing. It's the chin. It's just you're only as relevant as your last fight kind of thing. Yeah. And even though she won, it's like, well, what have you done lately? And it's like, well, you haven't been performing so hot lately. So are you? What's your ultimate prediction?
All right. Ultimately, I'm gonna go with Marina. By decision.
Okay, and I think that's fair. I would abstain from this.
You gotta do one. We gotta be able to call it if we're both wrong, you know.
I mean, I'm gonna agree with you on this one because exactly the reasons why you said. But honestly, like if I was making a parlay, this is one of those
this is not one I would choose.
Parlay. No.
Yeah.
No feel good.
Andrade might just slam her on her head and KO.
And that's it, right? You're gonna have a roast situation. So I mean, stay away as far as betting's concerned on this fight. But it should still be a very good fight.
Oh yeah.
It's very close. So the next fight we got, and this is I don't know why I said Josh Turner. That's so funny. The next fight we have Jalen Turner versus Moicano. I'm not going to try to pronounce his first name because I don't want to butcher it.
Hanato.
But thank you. So Turner's 14-7 and Moicano's 18-5. Turner's 6'3". That's right, bro. I keep forgetting that dude's huge for a lightweight. 6'3",
huge, and he is not like we get to see some really super skinny people. Think of Nate Diaz in this division, right? Super skinny, not strong, got overpowered. Jalen Turner is not weak.
No, he's cut. That boy's cut. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I love me some Nick and Nate, bro. That's the homies, 209.
Yeah.
Shout out. But man, dude, the Jalen Turner is a whole nother athlete. 28 years old, 77-inch reach. Like his fight, like he's lost to Hooker and Garbrandt, who are two very good guys. He knocked out Bobby Green, which we just talked about earlier.
Yeah.
He's a good young up and coming fighter, and Moicano's good too. I mean, he beat Dauber, who's tough. That dude is tough. He beat Hernandez by sub, and he beat Herbert by sub. He didn't lose to Dos Anjos, but see, Dos Anjos is weird. I don't want to get into all this, but Dos Anjos is weird where he has really good runs and then he'll fade out and then he comes back. So, I mean, that was in 2022, and I think Dos Anjos was on his way back up and doing really well.
Yeah.
So he probably fought against a really good, tough Dos Anjos. But man, dude, this is, like I said, these are really good fights. But the odds, real quickly, is minus 245 for Turner. Makes sense. The height, the reach, and Moicano's plus 200. So what are your thoughts about this one?
It's another one where we look at even the records of recent, right? Moicano looks like he's on a better run, but looking at where he's fighting, right? Jalen Turner, Garbrandt is in the top 10 right now. He's been fighting the top of competition, and it was by split decision. It was controversial split decision that
both
he
of his
lost.
Losses were split decision,
right? The same thing with Hooker, right? Straight controversial. Who won it, right? It is. He's been competing there with that, right? Bobby Green was his layup fight, and he immediately smashed him, right? Like first round KO, done.
He made a statement. He made a statement with that fight.
Yeah, where Moicano has been, he was originally thought to be a featherweight, almost like leading to a championship fight. They thought he was going to, almost an heir apparent, like he was going to get there. He had a little struggle with Brian Ortega, being able to get him with the last minute submission. But it was almost thought that like he's going to get to that top. He's just going to put it together and he's going to get there. He's a great grappler, huge submission threat. He can throw hands, was super tough, right? And it never happened. He ended up moving up in weight. And you could see there was kind of a change where he went, I'm just going to be an action fighter, right? I'm going to be exciting. I'm going to do all this stuff. And he got big moments, right? We got to see with RDA that just accepting damage, coming forward and not quitting, made that a better fight, right? It made it exciting for people, even though he got battered in that.
Yeah.
We got to see, then he came up against Brad Riddell. Destroyed him, right? Like no chance, right? It was such a weird, he struggled with some people. He couldn't beat old RDA. RDA is really someone in that, like, the matchups really matter for him. He's I don't think he ever really got, he had his great time in lightweight, then tried moving up, and he had some success, couldn't break through. Fought the line of welterweight. Yeah, he fought the line of welterweight wrestlers, like all of them, right? It was just like, oh man, the most unlucky man.
And we know with wrestling, the weight matters. And those guys are way bigger than him, and it's like, dude, you just put yourself at a disadvantage.
Yeah, like
not taking anything away from him, but that's the truth.
Lightweight, I think, was the spot for him because he got to kind of be. He needed to be imposing on people,
right?
And at this point, older, still was able to bring it to Moicano. And then he got to Dober, who really does have that weakness of doesn't have great wrestling, right?
Doesn't.
Hard hitter, didn't have that ability. And we kind of got to see in that Moicano kind of go back to wanting to just win it, right? He was getting hurt, and then he went to the game plan of, I can just hold down Dober the whole time, right? And he won't be able to get back up. And he gave it up and went going for it. And we got to see, some of the earlier fights. Herbert is one of the other super tall people for the division. He's still shorter than Turner, right? And he is nowhere near as strong, nowhere near as skilled as Turner.
Right.
Turner, I think, has just been fighting better competition. We get to see he has better striking skills and power that I think will punish Moicano, who really wants to just kind of... He's good at counter combinations. Doesn't really move his head that much. He isn't doing that. He doesn't, he eats a lot of shots, which kind of makes the match.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say, I have a feeling, I don't know why, but whenever I just get that gut, I just like to say what I'm thinking. Yeah. I feel like Turner's going to go out there and just catch him with like an uppercut. He's going to try to come in and try to grab him or something and just come up and boom! And just catch him because he does get hit. And now that I'm remembering, I'm like, I've seen this guy get hit a lot. A lot. And because Turner's one of those guys you don't want to get hit from. So
yeah. Moicano does normally do good in that, like, he will accept shots to throw back and do all that stuff, and he's a tough guy to absorb it. But I think this is the bad shot. I think Jalen can do stuff. When he knocked out Bobby Green, it was a double jab to get Bobby Green moving his head and then blasted him, right? That was such a good setup that he read and knew he can do. I think he's just going to set up Moicano the same way. I think Moicano's hope is wrestle him, but I don't think Moicano's wrestling is as good as Gamrot's, right? Garbrandt isn't as good top control. He can't keep you down as much, but he's a strong takedown artist.
Right.
Moicano definitely better at keeping control and willing to like not do submissions and stuff to hold it down like against Dober.
Right.
But I think his ability to get it there is just not as strong. And I think Jalen going to be too strong, too long, and land those big shots on Moicano.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I think Moicano's best shot, like his game plan for victory is going to be to sub him. But I just think with Turner being so tall and so rangy, he's going to have a really hard time coming in. And that's why I said the uppercut. Because when someone tries to shoot, you're throwing a knee, or you're throwing that uppercut.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be there. And the fact that he's going to let you do it, I mean, I think this is going to be a finish. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 3 rounds, but it's going to be a banger 3 rounds if it goes 3 rounds.
Yeah. If it's 3 rounds,
someone's getting caught.
Someone's
getting caught. Either Turner's going to get his leg caught, or he's going to get taken down, and Moicano's just going to use his superior submission or his grappling as far as like the submission side of things.
Yeah.
To take him out. But in my heart of hearts, I just think just being so tall, having that power, being able to have a guy who's going to come forward at you, it's going to set you up. Yeah. It's going to set you up. He's probably going to knock him out, and it's going to be great for him because it's going to be like, okay, he's ready for that bigger competition. Now let's probably rank this guy and let's make a bigger fight with him.
I think Moicano not having the defense, because we got to see Hooker really take some of the fight out of Turner when he started to like switch it up and really put pressure on him. I think Moicano's going to be too easy to hit for it to like discourage Turner. I think Turner's gonna, when you're hitting someone, you still kind of feel good about it, right? Like it's not like he's gonna turn off and be, dejected by the pressure. I think he's just gonna be blasting him each time.
Right, and I think Hooker and Eugene, that's Izzy's coach. That's him, Volk. They're too smart, and I think that's what happens with Turner. Turner's, he's still gaining experience. They have this. I mean, call him, coach of the year, ultimate, the ultimate game plan, right? Izzy's a good example of that. Volk, that's a whole other conversation for another day. How I felt about that whole situation. I don't think that was Eugene. I think that was Volk. But Hook and Garbrandt are way bigger steps up in competition and way harder guys that have great camps and great game plans. Whereas I feel like Moicano, not saying he doesn't have that, but it's just a different level.
Yeah,
and I think, and I agree with you. I think Turner, but I'm saying by knockout. But for parlay reasons, I'm taking the minus 245. Right now, it's at minus 238. Ooh, not that big of a difference, but take the minus 238. It'll probably change by the time this episode comes out and by the time Saturday happens,
Yeah.
But that's going to be an excellent fight.
Yeah, I'm excited, but, going Turner.
Going Turner. All right. Next fight we got. So this is so the first fights are on UC Fight Pass at 3:00. So this is not even on ESPN. This is on Fight Pass. That's crazy. Now I got to get Fight Pass, bastards. So the first fight on the ESPN Plus, which is at 5:00 Pacific. So TV. It'll be man, I'm just gonna say his last name. Yusuff. I'm gonna mess up his first name. Is it Sadiq? Sadiq Yusuff. He's 13-3 versus Diego Lopes. Lopez? Is that Lopez?
Lopez. He's Brazilian. So
okay, that makes sense. I was like, where's the Z? He's 23-6. So Yusuff is ranked number 13. It's a featherweight bout. Another really close fight. They actually have Yusuff, who's ranked at plus 120, to Lopez, who's minus 140. And some of Yusuff's last fights, he lost to Barbosa by decision. And Lopes, he's won 4 out of 5. That's good. I mean, competition. I don't know how I feel about the competition, but I mean,
the one loss is the big thing that's, I think, carrying him in a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
In his loss to Evloev, he was kind of seen as the next big thing of 145. I know we got Topuria, who just got it, but like it was debate of like who's better, him or Evloev coming up, right? And he came in short notice, filled in to fight Evloev, and still gave him a tough fight, right? It was something that everyone thought he should have been outmatched completely. And I think that view of doing so well in that fight is really putting a lot into work for Lopes.
I see. And that makes sense. But the odds are close. Plus 120, minus 140.
Yeah.
The odds makers are saying this is close. I mean, this is another one of those fights where it's like, I don't know. Like, I've seen both of these guys fight. Yes, Lopes is very good, but I don't know. I truly don't know how to go. Like, what I would do in this situation. I would probably avoid the parlay altogether.
Yeah.
But, share some of your thoughts about this.
Yeah, this is another, it's a testament to how good this card is, that there are so many of these fights that are so close, right? Even the ones that the odds seem off, right? The odds
not that far
high,
off.
They're really like reality. We can see these people winning, right? We can see Cody winning. We can see Jim Miller, winning. We can see
you really want that to happen so bad.
I want it to happen, man. I'm trying to make it. I'm putting the energy into the ether, man.
Hey.
I'm gonna put it up for him.
Hey, do the McGregor, man. He says you got to speak it into existence, so
yeah,
he's
man.
speaking it.
Yeah, but now we have this one. Sadiq Yusuff was put up to be like a next big thing at 145 too, right? He was kind of thought of. He was kind of in the grouping of some of the African fighters coming up, right? Kamaru Usman really speaks highly of this man. And we got to see he has big power. He's strong. He is
strong.
He's had good wrestling, right? Or a good, like some defensive wrestling. But, he did get completely, he got beat by Arnold Allen, who is top of that division, right? You can't really hold that one against him. Edson's Barboza fight was a tough fight. I think the way Barboza ended up beating him kind of does show a bit, right? He had Barboza hurt. Barboza came back, used glitch, it turned Barboza into a wrestler who that has never been his thing, and was able to get that decision against Sadiq. I think what I've seen from Sadiq too, and I kind of get to see it from a lot of the super muscled, very powerful fighters, you can't be that active in a fight when you're throwing so much power, so much stuff all the time, right? It takes a lot out of you to be really active in that. And he threw a lot more during the Barboza fight, but I think there's still a limit to that. And he isn't really blasting out and knocking out people, which is crazy to me, because you think like, dude, he's super strong, right? How isn't he just blowing some people apart? So with that, I think Lopes, though he hasn't had as much major competition in the UFC, he was a champion outside the UFC. He gave Evloev and showed a lot of skills. He has good grappling. He does have serviceable striking, right? I think he's going to be able to win just from activity, right? I think Sadiq had a habit of kind of sitting back and only wanted to throw a couple shots, stop for a while. And I think that's something that goes against you in the judge's eyes a lot. I think Lopes being able to be more active, probably being able to put him in the clinch, try to take him to the ground and just eat up time is just going to take away from the chances for Sadiq to really dominate a round.
Well, what's interesting is Lopes is really big in his fights trying to throw that sub. His average is 5.29 subs a fight. Yeah, which is crazy. That's a lot. And then Sadiq's landing strikes per minute is 5.72. Lopes is 2.47.
Yeah.
So like you said earlier, Yusuff's gonna throw, dude. He's gonna throw. But what's on his side in this fight, just in my opinion, is that it's only a 3-round fight, whereas in that Barbosa fight was a 5-round fight.
Yeah.
And he was starting to gas, which is very evident.
Yeah.
In that last round. So I mean, it's going to be good. I just wonder if a 3-round fight is going to change it for him, where he's going to be able to have that output for 3 rounds. But is Lopes going to snatch him up? And I think that's where it's like, he could. But I think that's also why the odds are so close, because it's like, you're going against a guy who throws a lot, but you got to go against a guy who's going to snag you up and probably tap you out. So it's like, what do you do, you know?
Yeah.
And the live odds are plus 120 for Yusuff. And it's, 2 points. It's minus 142 now. Instead of minus 140.
Okay. So he's slightly more favorite.
Yeah, I'm using the UFC website. So I was like, to change obviously by the time the fight starts. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. Who are you going on this fight? Because honestly, at this point, I truly don't know. Like, my gut's saying Lopes, but I don't know. Yusuff has fought better competition, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's where it's another hard one where I'm going back in my head, right? Where I go, Sadiq has fought better competition, done well, and shown he can win it, right? Even, with his faults he's been able to go through. He still did a good fight in the Barboza fight and showed me good things in that. Whereas a lot of Lopes to me is still a mystery when he hits this higher level, right? He's been able to blow out the last couple guys, no problem, but they're not on the level of Sadiq.
Right.
I do think, he is a tough guy. Like I said, I think it just comes to the decision and how they kind of favor activity and being able to do that stuff. I think he has those skills that kind of eat up that time to get that decision. So I'm going to go Lopes by decision.
So you thinking like and I agree with that. Do you think it goes like split decision, or do you think it's like 2-1?
I can definitely see split decision.
That's what I was thinking. I just think it's going to be a lot of back and forth where you have, Sadiq's going to land a lot, but Lopes is probably going to be in more advantageous positions, whether it's taking him down or just, maybe throwing him in there, trying to make him actually work to get out of a submission.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what these fights, it's like, it's just weird because it's like, it's close. It's close. Yeah. These two guys, it's like, okay, the winner of this is getting bumped up into competition and you're going to make some money. And then this guy, you're going to do some work, or you're going to, I don't think either of them are going to get cut, but I'm just saying it's going to be like,
it is one of those
time
hard
to go back
where,
and start all over again.
Yeah, it puts them in the crossroads where whoever wins continues to go up, the other one's going down. That's just like, they kind of seem like they both deserve more fights of that level.
Oh, I agree.
I feel bad for it. It's one of those like, key mark of good fight making. But it is.
If both of them do well and it's close, then both their stocks go up. And really in the long run, whether someone wins or loses, it doesn't really hurt them in the long run. So I think if that's the case, and that's what we're kind of expecting anyways, it's going to be good for both of them. Both young. So, but this next fight, dude, now this is a banger. This is a main card fight, in my opinion. And I know you and I talked about this. I could even see this if there wasn't a championship fight, this being a co-main, or if this was a fight night, this would be a main event. And yes, Holly Holm is old, and I'll obviously say who was fighting, but it's Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison, all this hype coming in. She was in the PFL, right?
Yes.
And she's 16-1. I'll let you get into all that, but it's a very Ronda Rousey-esque, right? If you want to kind of think about it in that terms. But Holly Holm's 15-6. Kayla Harrison 16-1. Holly Holm is an underdog by plus 325. That's crazy, dude. 325? She is older. I understand that. Holly Holm's a boxer. She's a kickboxer. She's a former champion. She's the preacher's daughter, dude. The preacher's daughter.
Literally in the Boxing Hall of Fame.
I mean, give her some credit. Yes, she's 42 years old. But Holly Holm is probably one of the best women fighters. I mean, at least top 3, in my opinion. I was like, because there's a lot of good fighters, but top 3 in my personal opinion. And she had, with Bueno Silva, she had a no contest. And then she beat Aldana and she beat Pennington. I mean, she beat Santos. I mean, she's not losing a lot of fights. I mean, she's not. I mean, her strikes per minute is big. She avoids a lot of takedowns. It's just her age. And she actually has a longer reach than Harrison. And Harrison, she beat Aspenlad. Okay. I mean, it's like, okay. She lost to Pacheco, and I'll let you talk about that. And honestly, I mean, she hasn't really had any kind of crazy competition because she's just been, one, she was bigger. So that's another interesting aspect, which I'll also let you talk about. She was a lot bigger in weight, and she's coming down to a smaller weight because they're fighting at bantamweight?
They were fighting at 155.
But no, she's fighting at bantamweight. 135, right?
Yeah.
That's 135?
Yep.
Yeah. That's crazy, bro. That's 20 pounds for someone who's already shredded, like that's a lot of weight. So I mean, I don't know. I'll let you go for it, and I'll kind of say something at the end because I mean, this is a big fight. This is a big fight.
It is such a weird one, right? Because it is. She is the biggest woman fighter outside of the UFC now. She's now coming in, right? She was the PFL phenom, undefeated until recently, till her fight. I believe it was the third fight with Pacheco. You know, she was going for that other $1 million from their tournament. Ended up losing in close decision on that one. But yeah, one of the biggest questions is she was fighting at 155. How is it in her weight cut? Probably losing muscle. She was someone who really so if you don't know, for her, she is a judo gold medalist, right? And that's where all these kind of comparisons with Holly Holm versus Ronda are coming in, right? I think they're trying to see, like, is that magic going to be there again? Is Kayla going to be the one to kind of beat the ghost of it? Is she gonna, like, the judo curse that seems to be there, that Holly Holm is the kryptonite, right? I think is what this big test is. And Holly Holm, though 42, has still been in the top of competition. I think that says something about part of the competition for the bantamweight division. And she was fighting at the featherweight of women's. She is one of the biggest, most athletic girls, most physically dominant girls in the division. So I don't really think she's gonna be giving up that much size once Kayla Harrison comes to this division, right? She would have had to lose muscle. She's not cutting an extra 20 pounds of water to make this.
There wasn't much water left at 155.
Yeah, she was big, right? Like, so she was muscled up. For Kayla Harrison's fights in the PFL, she mostly ran through people using her grappling. She does have better striking than Ronda.
Oh, that was one of the things I'm gonna say off the top. There's a night and day. It's night and day.
Oh yeah. One of the things Ronda had is that, especially at the time, she was one of the only girls with power who was willing to throw hard, right? And a lot of girls didn't have the movement or defense to get away from that. They just absorbed overhands and hooks that Ronda spammed at them. Holly Holm was the person that just showed her the difference of actually having that striking skill and footwork to kind of keep away. Holly Holm has trained for wrestlers and judo people before. She is kind of that perfect foil for Kayla.
She's a complete fighter. She's a complete fighter.
Kayla, when she lost to Pacheco, like I said, it was a tough fight. It went all 5 rounds. Pacheco is another big girl, very strong, had really good jiu-jitsu off her back, and really, like, every takedown, every time they were on the ground, really made Kayla work throughout it, and it really gassed her out within those. Like, by the end of the 3rd round, Kayla was tired and still trying to go for it. You know, she was able to push through, but she didn't have the same energy and the strength to really dominate Pacheco like she had everyone else. And then Pacheco was just a better on the feet, right? She is more natural up there. So that kind of really gave her that edge that, you know, Aspen Ladd didn't have any of that, right? Aspen Ladd is a good grappler, but
that's,
you know, not the same, right?
No, Aspen Ladd is nowhere near either of these two women. I mean, it's that's
Holly Holm's footwork. I think the problem with Holly Holm is her striking, though she is, you know, boxing Hall of Fame, you know, kickboxer, all this stuff, isn't the best at really hurting and landing on girls, right? We saw her fight Pennington twice and just hit air repeatedly with just someone walking back. We got to see her against Valentina do the same, right? If someone isn't coming at her, she isn't the best at actually landing big shots, hurting people, and using all the advantages that she should have.
Right.
And another big difference for Kayla is she isn't in the Ronda of just walking face first into her, right? She does throw jabs. She does kind of do some movement. And she does have different takedowns. She isn't just trying to swing a hook, grab your head, and do a toss, right? She has all of those. She has all of those. But she also has a double leg and a single leg, can kind of chain wrestle. You know, she does have that extra to put her over the edge to be able to get people down. I think this has a chance to be a very grindy fight because we got to see Holly Holm even revert to that to other people. She got to body Cyborg, right? She got to put Cyborg on the cage, and Cyborg couldn't move her, who was known to be one of the strongest women fighters ever, right?
Right.
So I think that's going to be the point of contention for a lot of this is Holly Holm using her movement, using the outside strikes. And then even if Kayla gets there, I don't know if she's going to be able to just throw her around, right? I think she's going to hit a body way stronger than I think she's expecting to in Holly Holm. So this is another one where huge odds difference.
Yeah. I think the odds are way too far apart.
Yeah.
Well, because the thing is like, Kayla Harrison, younger, stronger, not taking anything from Holly. Holly's 42. That's kind of like what we're kind of harping on. We've seen older men, Randy Couture and whatnot, win belts and win big fights, but I just don't know. I don't know, because then you have to look at the weight cut. Is this 20-pound weight cut gonna hurt Harrison? Because if she comes in weak, Holly can catch her with a leg kick, a kick to the head, and that's it. I mean, her legs are great. But another comment I wanted to make about Holly Holm is that what I've noticed lately in her fights is she doesn't throw as much as she used to. Or it's like the boxing where it's like you're kind of just throwing stuff to set up, but there's no execution on that setup. Whereas it's more of like trying to score. Like you said, she was hitting air. It's like, well, but there is no oomph in her shots. And I just don't know if that's age or if that's she's trying to set up, because she's very tactical when she fights, where she has this game plan. She's trying to set it up for this perfect shot. Because that's just the way I look at it, is when she's going in there, she's looking for a specific shot and she'll keep doing the same setup for that shot, whether it's a leg kick or a cross or a hook. Like she has the shot that she's looking for, but she's not willing to kind of pivot and try something else.
Yeah, she will throw the same combination over and over. I mean, that's the joke online of her, the ish is into the air, right? But she'll do that over and over again. And, part of it makes me think, right, as we've seen kind of a major difference for, in the world of boxing. In the world of boxing, you can win rounds on defense, right? You can win rounds throwing only a few punches in the round.
Floyd Mayweather's doing that. Prime example of that. Yeah.
Right. You can win rounds that way. In MMA, almost nothing is scored that way, right? I think like if Holly Holm was allowed to do that, she would probably have a few more wins in some of those decisions, right? But I think she knows her limitations. I think she knows she's slower than she used to. I think that's part of why she uses the clinch so much. She's kind of learned, the old adage of your power leaves latest, right? She is still a big woman, still very strong. She can lean on that and lean on some of those other skills she has, but it just isn't potent. It just isn't. But unless she lands that perfect head kick, she isn't really hurting you. She isn't submitting you. She isn't taking you down, right? She isn't grounded pounding you. It's another stall time, win a decision stuff. So I think I still give it to Kayla in that I think she's younger. I'm hoping, it all depends on her weight cut. We'll see on Friday when we see those.
We're going to see exactly if she's able to make weight and if she struggles. I think if she struggles, so obviously don't put in your bets yet, but if she struggles to make weight or she takes extra time to make weight, start taking that plus. Because you're just everything starts going when you cut down too far. This might be too much of a weight cut, and she might need to go to 145, which I don't even know what UFC is doing with that. Oh no, they don't have one. I was like, they've talked about it, but like they need to do something.
That's gonna be out, man.
But I mean,
Noon's left with the title. They making everyone who has 145 come down. They told her 135 or bust. 145 is disappearing, man.
I feel like for fighters like her, it's like it makes sense, to have that 145 division. But if there's not enough competition in the division, it's like, well, go out and go do a contender series and go find them because they're out there.
Yeah. I think it'll take some time.
No, for sure. I agree. But she's still young. I mean, she's only 33. So you never know. So what's your official prediction on this?
I'm going to go Kayla Harrison by decision. Just on being tenacious on those takedowns. I think they'll get to the cage, and I think we're going to see a lot of dead time of them on the cage fighting for it. She is a better cage wrestler than a lot of people Holm has fought. I think she's another strong person where Holm really depends on that strength as well. So I think she's missed her chance to be able to make lightning strike twice. So go Kayla.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with you. My only caveat is wait till the weight cut to see how and where she's at and
Yeah.
base that weight cut on your decision if you're going to bet on it. Because if she's struggling or she doesn't make weight, I mean, she doesn't make weight by like 10 pounds and they're still going to fight. I mean, obviously take Harrison because at that point she's like, whatever. But if she struggles to make weight and still makes weight and she looks sucked up, I've seen crazier happen. So, take the odds with a grain of salt, make your money if that happens. So, but we have a lot more fights to cover. The next fight is Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. So this is Aljo's first fight up at featherweight, I think, right?
Yes, this is his first fight moving up.
Right. So this is just, he's coming off his loss with Suga. Crazy fight. I didn't think Suga was going to do that to him. But Kattar, been around for a little while, been in a lot of wars. 23-7. Aljo's 23-4. The odds are at plus 140 underdog for Kattar, minus 170 for Sterling. Kattar is a little taller, a little bigger. The reach is pretty similar. But Aljo's level of competition is on another level. Even though it's in a different weight class, Aljo's level of competition and being a championship caliber fighter, in my opinion, is just way different. Kattar's lost to Allen. He's lost to Emmett. He lost to Holloway. That was a crazy fight, bro. Holloway absolutely pieced him up.
Kattar is literally on the record for, I think, getting hit the most in UFC history, right, from that fight, right? Like, that is absolutely insane.
And Aljo, he has 4 losses, but, like, I mean, his most recent loss was just O'Malley. Like, he was a champion, DQ'd by Jan. Say what you want about that. Split decision with Jan. I mean, say what you want about that. He did KO Dillashaw, and he did beat up Cejudo. I mean, Cejudo is not the same now, but he was still very good. He's not having to cut so much weight. He was already really cut at that weight. And he doesn't walk around at that. He walks around like, I think at 170, I think I saw.
Well, that's the natural thing.
But a little heavier. Cutting. Right.
Yeah.
But he's a pretty big boy. 170 is pretty big. Like 35 pounds he's dropping. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's still a lot for somebody who's as cut as he is.
Yeah, I think he's not going to be as undersized as we would think for the division.
Just height, though.
Yeah, well, think of height-wise. Ilia Topuria, I think, is the same height, right? Ilia Topuria is a tank of a dude, right?
He's a little taller, though, I thought. I mean, Volk is just really small. Volk's really small.
Volk is just small to compare, right? So, like...
But Kattar's 5'11".
Yeah. Kattar is a taller guy in it, and, like I said, he does have good wrestling. He's fought a lot of strong people. So, he's one that has had it's a good takedown defense himself. So I think he is a good measuring stick for Aljo, right? How is he going to do in this division? Aljo did really like his strength and size advantages, and absolutely insane that he had the gas tank he did in that division. Yeah, while still cutting that weight, doing all that. That's absolutely absurd, right?
I'm just laughing because you the way you said it is like, you said it like you're being very nice about it. You're like, he's a measuring stick. I'm like,
yes.
He's a punching bag for Aljo to come in here and to show that he can be ranked as a top 5, top 10 fighter. I mean, that's just the way I'm looking at it, just calling a spade a spade. I mean, that's what he is. He's going to go out there.
I want to give Kattar his credit. I've loved watching him fight. But, he is definitely propped up to let Aljo take him out, right? I don't know. I don't think Aljo will be able to finish him. I think Kattar does have great hands, great boxing. I think he can find openings, and Aljo isn't the most unbreakable chin, right? Sean O'Malley blasted him out pretty, in the second round, right? He got knocked out, big knees in the past by Moraes, but like,
hey, there's a big knee by Jan. Come on now, that was a good knee.
Yeah, true. He did. Yeah, he did eat that one. It was not KO'd, right? Like, so he's not glass chin or anything, right? But he's not he can get cracked. He's not Holloway, who's never been knocked down or anything like that.
Which is still crazy how much punishment that poor guy's taking, man.
Oh yeah,
we'll get into him. Don't worry, we'll get into him.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I think he is super tenacious with his takedowns. We got to see against people like Peter Yan, right? Mm-hmm. Dillashaw doesn't really count in that, like, he had his shoulder that he knew was popping out when he went into that fight.
That's so crazy,
right? I can't believe it, but he was able to take down Cejudo and different body type, right? Kattar's gonna be a bigger guy and have strength to be able to kind of resist it. But I think what we've seen from Aljo is that he is great at taking the back. He will be tenacious on those takedowns. He will be real awkward, so even though Kattar is long, Aljo does use a lot of stuff like kicks and stuff to really fight at as long range as he can before he wants to really get in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to kind of equalize some of it, even though they have the same range. Kattar having that height still going to help him. But I think Aljo is going to be able to kind of bridge that, use his kicks, use all that. He doesn't have to worry about getting taken down ever. He can do it all he wants. And I think he will just be tenacious. I think he'll do the same thing he's done at bantamweight it was bantamweight.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be tenacious with those takedowns. I think it's another one where I think he's going to get that decision, just eating up time, controlling him, getting him to the fence, bringing him back down. Matt returns, backpacking him, and just eating that time over and over again.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that prediction. My thing is it's not that much weight he's moving up, but I just wonder how his wrestling is going to go from when he's one of the bigger guys in the division to maybe more average or a little smaller. I'm not saying overall, but just in general, like he is moving up in weight. So he could probably take down Kattar, but when he's fighting Topuria, who has excellent takedown defense, then what?
Yeah, that's the big difference. What makes me hopeful for Aljo being able to still have that success is that he isn't just like blast doubling people and overpowering them and taking them down. We are seeing him really do some chains. We really see him be really like quickly getting the back on a lot of people and putting.
He's super slick. He's super slick with his chains for sure.
Yeah. So that's what makes me think that skill still crosses over, right? He might not be able to just grab his hands, throw them around.
Right.
But I think he still can put them in bad positions that kind of is advantageous for him. I don't think he'll be as dominant in taking them down. Right. But like I said, I think it can still eat up time, do all that, get the back.
Yeah, to me, when I saw this fight was one of the ones where I'm like, minus 170 all day. Take that all day. Easy. This I would say definitely decision, though. I don't think anybody's getting knocked out in that fight.
No.
Man, dude, this next fight, this is so crazy that this next fight is not on the main card. I know you're going to get into it and you're going to go off.
Yeah.
How? That's my, it's just how is Yuri not fighting on a main card against Rakic? And how is Rakic favored? Or Rakic? How is he favored? Like, I don't know. It just blows my mind. So, Yuri's 29-4, one draw. Rakic is 14-3. They're pretty big boys for lightweight or light heavyweight. 6'3", 6'4", 205. Pretty similar in age. Yuri has a little bit longer reach by like 2 inches, but Yuri is a champion. Rakic hasn't been there yet, but he's also fought good competition. I mean, the only person that Yuri's lost to recently was Pereira. And Pereira is just a different. I mean, remember he cut so much weight to fight at middleweight, but Pereira was a big kickboxing champion. I mean, we saw the Izzy highlights. His natural weight. I mean, honestly, that dude could probably fight a heavyweight if he wanted to. That's how big he is. He's strong. He might be a small heavyweight, but he could.
Yeah, maybe.
He could.
Yeah.
If he fought John Jones at a lightweight, a heavyweight, and John Jones wasn't 280 or whatever it is now, but he was like at 235, 240, like a Stipe weight, that'd be an interesting fight. That's all I would say. That would be an interesting fight. But Yuri's beat Glover, Reyes, Ozdemir, Holloway, and Rakic. He lost to Blachowicz, but Blachowicz at the time was also doing really well.
And it was an injury.
Yeah, well, and Blachowicz too, though, now is like, I think his age is starting to show, and it's just time. And he kind of got his light start, and it is what it is with Blachowicz. But he beat Santos, he beat Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith, I mean, I understand, but he's still a dog. Either way, he's still hard to get out of there. He freaking beat Manuwa, freaking Jimmy, and he lost to Vulcan. Yeah, that was crazy. that was a quick one. But I mean, this is a good fight. This is a great fight. And the fact, it's the main event on the prelim, but why, same with the Harrison fight, big name, huge name. Why isn't that on the main card? It makes no sense. Yeah, and the fact that the odds are so close, that's crazy, bro. Yuri
this is basically the number one.
Easy. I don't care what anybody says. Sorry, I know I'm going early. I got amped up about this too. Plus 100, you're taking that easy all day long, dude. That's crazy. That's crazy.
This is basically the number one contender fight on the card that the light heavyweight title is on the line against the guy who is the former champion, the guy that Pereira just beat against Ratchet, is coming back from his injury from the Blachowicz fight. That That's what's crazy to me. I can't believe Rakic that people have that much confidence in him. And I wonder if it's more not having confidence in him, more doubting Yuri, that he got knocked out in November. It's not long ago, and he's coming back in there. And, when he's going well, people don't really care about his craziness and wackiness and,
Right.
being a little wild. We got to see it cracked, and I think that's what's hitting people. That the last thing you saw, what have you done for me lately, was his crazy style went against him. He couldn't do anything to Pereira. Pereira outfought him, took him out. But Rakic isn't that same guy. Rakic isn't a Pereira type striker. He's a much more calm, right? He's very okay.
Two
having
very
boring
different
decision fights, right? He got the highlight reel knockout of Manawa.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't really done anything like that since. It's like when Volkan had his 2 flash knockouts,
Right.
and then was like, Volkan's never been a flash knockout guy, and then he just clinches people, and people are like, "What's going on?" It's like, yeah, he was never that exciting of a fighter. He just had a couple fights where he blasted people out, and everyone thought that's what it was. It's the same thing with Blachowicz almost. That he got the few fights of Polish power, battered
he beat
people.
Izzy, who was already smaller than him and didn't even bulk up correctly. And it's like, of course he's gonna lay on him and beat him, because that's how you beat him. It's I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'll let you, like I said, I don't want to take too much from you. Just for me, looking at this as somebody that's just like, dude, plus 100 for a former champion, you're crazy. And especially the level of competition is just so much different. So much different.
Yeah.
And it's not Pereira. And that's the thing, is it's not Pereira. Yeah, we've seen Volk get knocked out. Yeah, he came back too fast. Yeah, he took a short notice fight. Volk's also older. Yuri's only 31 years old. I think people think he's 40. He's not 40. He's 31 years old. And the fact that you're going to make him a dog against a guy who's coming back from injury, crazy.
Yeah, we have even no clue how Ratchet's going to be coming back from that. If we had seen more,
that boy's getting knocked out. He's getting knocked out. He's getting knocked out.
I don't want to be mean to him, but I hope so, because I like Jiri. I think let's see the wildness come. I think he's all about making the chaos happen. I think Ratchet isn't someone who wants that, and I think it's gonna lead to some openings. I think Jiri can make this his comeback. I think he's gonna want to have a big comeback. So I'm rooting for him. I'm gonna go with him by knockout.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to knock him out. I mean, I think for sure he wins the decision. I just think he's just way more of a complete fighter. He's very aggressive. Rakic doesn't like when people try to overwhelm him because he's so passive. Not passive in a bad way. It's just he's a little more conservative. He's smart. He's deliberate. He likes to throw certain shots. But whenever someone's coming back off of an injury and you're going to throw him into a #1 contender fight and they haven't had a warm-up fight, it's like, I don't know about that, man.
A wild guy, right? It's not a calm fight that he gets to
a
feel
former
out.
champion, champion who literally, Pereira, in my opinion, is just on another level, and it's experience, not necessarily in the UFC. It's just experience, reach, power.
Yeah,
and it's just that's everyone has their kryptonite, and unfortunately for a lot of these guys, Izzy included, Pereira is just that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you and I are the same on that, because I knew you were gonna. I was like, I'm already getting amped up because I'm just like, it's so crazy that they would do that to him, man. Okay, and this next fight is a perfect example. No offense to this guy, I like the guy, he's fun to watch, but the next fight's Bo Nickal. Mind you, it's at minus 2,500 that he's favorited. I get it. You want to give him the UFC Dana White push. The Dana White privilege, let's call it for what it is. He got the Dana White privilege. He's 5-0. He's fighting Cody Brundrage, who's 10-5. That guy's plus 1,000. They're fighting at middleweight. Yes, Bo Nickal's good. I understand that. Yeah, you want to give him the push. Yeah, you want to give him the limelight. But of all these fights, he should be the first fight on the card on prelims, just based on matchup. Everybody else has a banger fight. Maybe besides, even Andrade, even though I'm not really. It's a good fight, but I'm not overly excited for that fight. This fight should be the first fight on prelims because he's fighting somebody he's probably going to blow through. And I think
Cody Brundrage should be on a 5-fight losing streak. Basically, he has. I wasn't even gonna. I went and I was like, I'm not even dealing with the records with this fight because it doesn't matter because Cody Brundrage is brought up to not matter. Right? He had 3 straight losses. He has 1 no contest. Well, I think technically he has a win by DQ because the guy hit him in the back of the neck when he had taken down Brundrage and beating him up, right? A guy who was nowhere near the caliber of wrestler Bo Nickal was already beating him up, and then he just got his KO by triangle choke slam, right? And someone had him in the choke, picked him up, slammed him, right?
He's 4-4 in
like
his
a
last
great
8 fights.
show of skill that he got the KO,
Dude,
right? It wasn't.
He's literally 4-4 in his last 8 fights in the UFC. Like that's, I'm literally looking it up. I'm like 4-4 in the last 8 fights, and you're just gonna feed him to Bo Nickal. I mean, I get it, but it's like, why are you putting him on the first fight of the card? Like,
this is
that's
where
that's a prelim
I think
card. That's a
putting
fight.
him in the UFC 300 is a cool thing. Put him on there, right? You want to get eyes on him. But when we talk about how good the card is, right? We have Davidson, former champion, Cody, former champion, Jim Miller, UFC legend. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. The only guy to be at 100, 200, and 300. Jessica Andrade, former champion. Holly Holm, former champion. Kayla Harrison, champion of somewhere else coming in. Big name coming in. Aljo, former champion. Jiri, former champion. That when you think about what are you getting with your main event card, the $90 you're basically spending to get the UFC 300. You don't get as the $90 you spent wasn't this whole card. It's only these last 5 fights.
Right.
And one of that fight is Bo Nickal, right? And a card where you see all these other great things. It's awesome they're on TV. I think those people should get the prestige of being on the pay-per-view over Bo Nickal. That should be a big deal, especially in this. He's going to win. He's going to take him down. He's going to do whatever he wants. I don't know if he's going to ground and pound him, then choke him. I mean, like, he's been grappling. He might just run in, throw hard, blast double him, do whatever he wants. He's winning this. It doesn't matter. He's at negative 2,500. Now it's
minus 2,100. So
okay. So some people are like taking the chance that like maybe Bo Nickal's not going to triangle Cody Brundrage, right? Because Bo Nickal is a dominant on top wrestler guy, right? Like he wants to get dominant position and then impose himself on him. He's not going to bottom play Cody and put himself in that and get slammed KO'd, right? This is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. He's going to win in the first round. I mean, either way, he's going to win the fight. Like that's without a shadow of a doubt.
The biggest question is, can Cody last
3 rounds?
A round or 2? Yeah. Can he make it in there? Because Malkoon took him down and was beating him up.
Right.
Malkoon isn't some amazing wrestler. Bo Nickal is a top
of the line
wrestler, top United States wrestler, all-American, all this stuff. He does deserve some credit. But oh man, is it absurd. It is crazy that this is the spot he gets. It is really nothing more than the Dana White privilege.
Right. I think Bo Nickal needs to play into this though and come out to Kurt Angle's
Yeah.
It's like perfect. That'd be perfect. Set up your character art, your village and origin story. But honestly, like for me, like looking back, I wish they would throw that card as maybe if they wanted to give him some spotlight, be the main event on the prelim, bump up the Harrison fight, and bump up the Uri fight. I think that's what it made more sense. Add that extra card or add that extra fight onto that fight card. Give the people their money's worth. Start the card at 6 instead of 7. Like,
make
have
it
people
big.
Be like, right, make it big. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. 6 instead of 5.
Yeah.
Make it sick. It's UFC 300. But hey, you know what? I don't run it. They make billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Us as fans can be frustrated about it. But yeah, without a shadow of doubt, I mean, I don't even know if this fight is even worth betting on, but obviously you're going to bet Bo Nickal. Do it for strictly parlay reasons.
I guess.
Don't bet $100 to win like $2 and was it $2.10? Like, don't even mess with it. Don't even waste your time on it.
Yeah. It's nothing.
But in all fairness, these next 2, 3, I mean, okay, they're fine. It's just there's bigger fights, but this next fight is Charles Olivera, huge. Fighting lightweight, he's a plus 180, which is crazy. Freaking crazy. Yes, I understand Arman's good, but he's fighting Arman. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. I'll let you do it.
Tsarukyan.
You'll do it for me because I am not going to butcher that. But he's minus 220 favorite. Yes, Charles can have banger fights where he comes out and absolutely destroys somebody. or he absolutely gets destroyed. I mean, but to be fair, his last 5 fights, he's only lost to Makhachev, and Makhachev's on top of the mountain. Makhachev is I don't think he's as good as Khabib, but he's like the second to Khabib as far as that family and that's concerned, right? Like that region.
I think he's a really interesting difference, right? Where part of it, Khabib was always willing to be a little crazy and do wild things, really put him over the edge. Whereas Islam really tries to like be the smart fighter, not put himself in bad positions. And
he's very by the book. Very by the book.
Yeah, I feel like
he's like, okay, I'm not gonna go here. I'm gonna.
Yeah, he might have more skills than Khabib, but he's a better kicker. He's all this stuff, right? But I think that mentality difference sets them apart.
For sure.
But yeah, he was able to, bring it to Olivera, and part of it, one of the biggest things was Olivera in his championship defenses against Chandler, against Poirier, against Gaethje, got hit and got hurt.
Yeah.
And they were too afraid to follow him, right? They were too afraid to go to the ground with him.
I would be.
I mean, a little bit. Yeah. But they had him hurt and went, nah, right? And he came back and he battered them. He is someone, he dropped Gaethje, right? The other ones, he saw, he dropped Chandler. He was able to like throw hard. Right. This dude can come forward and batter people. But he does have the ghost of his past always lingering. Kind of all the doubt that people have for him in his championship run was his past UFC fights when he was coming up and young and learning that, he could be held down. He could get neutralized. He can kind of break during fights. And we haven't really seen that. He, once again, bashed Dariush again on his comeback.
Right.
He's someone who did kind of get a little screwed. He was supposed to fight Islam.
Yeah.
Got cut. As now is going through 2 different contenders to try to get to that fight again.
I mean, I would like to see that fight again. I mean, this is what this fight is, right? It's the number 1.
Yeah.
For the next person's fighting for the belt. But I mean, Arman, and I'm not taking anything away from him. I understand he's very good. Yes, I've seen him fight. Yes, he's excellent. He lost to Garbrandt. I mean, Garbrandt is great. Garbrandt is great, but I'm just saying he has lost to Garbrandt, and the other guys that he's fought, the level of competition is just different. It is different. Dariush, yes, he knocked out Dariush. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So did Charles. But that's the common opponent. But if you look at the level of competition, Charles, yes, he has a ghost of his past. Yes, he's lost a lot of fights, a long time ago. But this Charles now is different. Yes, he's still vulnerable to getting hit and getting knocked down. But the fact that he's dangerous at all aspects of the fight, that's like his, I forget what the word is off the top of my head, but it's like his, not his sense, his like, I forget what it's called, but it's like a game changing. That's like his, how many
X factor. The word?
Thank you. I'm all over the place. But his X factor is that the fact that he's dangerous at all aspects of the fight. Poirier is not a slob. Gaethje is not a slob. These are 2 big names. Chandler, not a slob. Chandler's good. He's dumb in the fact that he will go out there with his chin out and freaking get knocked out, willing to get hit with his short little arms. No offense to him. I'm just telling you, he's you're a small boy. Don't go out there and get hit by these big boys. That's what's going to happen when he fights Conor. But anyways, he has fought the top of the division. He has that experience, and it just blows my mind that he's an underdog.
I feel like this should be even money, right?
I think it should be flopped. I think it should be flopped, personally.
I could definitely, if I had to give them
that competition.
Yeah, because the Garbrandt fight, when the Arman Tsarukyan versus Garbrandt was another one that like probably could have been a split decision, very close, where Garbrandt won it out just by pure cardio and grappling. Yeah, Garbrandt was able to edge out that fight against Arman with pure cardio and wrestling, right? He wasn't that successful at taking down Arman and keeping him down, but just the pure tenacity of it really got him those end rounds where Arman was getting tired in what I believe was his first 5-round fight, right? So we got to see Garbrandt really put that on him. And since then, we've seen him improve still. We've seen him be much more willing to throw hard, kind of like Topuria, who was a great grappler who then learned to like really throw and really put it on people. Armin, and fortunate for him, he got like a big flash KO of Dariush,
Right.
but it didn't really show us more from him against a top competitor, which I think is a little bit missing. I think he's the guy people want to prop up. I think the thing that gives me an edge, puts the edge in his favor against Charles, is just that grappling, right? That he is willing to go for it, and I don't think he'll be afraid of Charles. I don't think he'll be afraid of him throwing up submissions. I think he'll take that control time. It being 3 rounds, I think is going to favor him because he doesn't have to worry as much for his gas tank in that. Charles is still there to be hit. So even if he doesn't knock him out, I think just landing some big shots, getting the optic for the round and getting a takedown, getting to the fence, doing that can win him rounds for the judges. Charles is good. As soon as he hits the ground, he usually tries to get moving. His back touches, he's throwing something up. He's trying to move. He's very good at that. But as a guard player, he also is one who is like willing to go for submissions and do that. And unfortunately, we see how much when that happens, you lose control, that they end up right back on top and killing time, right? If it's a minute to 3 minutes, you're in the grappling stage and you're in the bottom, you're still losing that round.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I respect your pick. Yeah. I was like, and I understand he's good. I just think for me, look, like obviously I'm a little more statistics based as far as like looking like at level of competition. Obviously that doesn't work for all things. Yeah. So like, Armin, is he talented? Yes. And could I see him winning? Yes. But I guess this is more like a heart one for me where it's like, I just know that Charles has that X factor. And I just think that his championship experience and the fact that he's fought a lot of these guys with a bunch of different styles. I mean, they're not, I just think that is what's going to help him. I think Armin's going to have to knock him out. I mean, he could go 3 rounds and hold, beat him. I just think that if Armin knocks him out, I think he gets the win, but I think Charles catches him something. Not a knockout. I think Charles catches him with a submission, and that's how he's going to win. Because that's really how I see Charles winning. So I don't think Charles is going to knock him out, and I don't think Charles is going to beat him in 3 rounds. Like that's not Charles' thing. Charles is a 5-round fighter where he's going to come back at the end and probably take you out.
Charles is the more lethal fighter of the two, right? He's has a better chance to bring that finish in one way or another. But like that's why I do feel that the odds should be closer, right?
Oh, for sure.
It should be. I don't know if people are just going for also, Charles lost to Islam, move it along, but it's tough.
They're different, dude. This is different.
Yeah.
Islam is different. It's like it's like the Pereira Giri thing that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Makhachev is the top of the mountain, and they're just different. Khabib beats Makhachev. It just shows you how good Khabib was.
Yeah.
But Makhachev's the top of the mountain, and his wrestling style is just so much better than everybody else's. And because he's so calculated, that's what makes him so good. It's just, he's the Pereira of that division. I mean, well, he was the guy there first. But you understand what I'm saying, is that, Charles struggles against the wrestling. Armin does have great power. He has knocked out a lot of guys. I don't know. This is one of those where it's like agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I respect, I can see your prediction happening, but for me, I don't know. Now it's at plus 185. I think at plus 185, I'm taking Charles. That's crazy. To me, that's crazy because Charles has the ability to finish fights. Like, do a straight pick. Don't do a parlay, do the straight pick and see what happens.
It's another one, like I said, great fight. It's another, I feel, more toss 'em up. It should be closer odds.
Right. That's the first fight we have to disagree on. That's crazy.
He's worth an underdog pick.
For sure.
But in my heart, I'm feeling Armin. It's Armin's chance to get over the mountain. I think he's getting a chance to hurdle over Olivera.
And but to me, I guess to be fair, just about that division in general, I don't think it matters who wins. As long as Makhachev's there, I don't think anybody's winning.
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
I just don't see anybody that I've seen. I don't even think Conor gets it done. Conor struggles with kind of those guys too. If Conor can even make that weight,
I don't think Conor wouldn't beat the top 7.
Ooh, I don't know about all that. I think Conor could beat Charles.
That'll be a different podcast day. We'll go over
I think Conor beats Charles. I think Conor could beat Charles, but
okay, there's a chance just because Charles gets hit in the face a lot.
Right. But man, dude. Okay, so this next fight definitely belongs on the main card. Could be a main event. Obviously, it's not. I thought it was for the BMF. It's not for the BMF no more.
It is.
Oh, it's just not labeled as BMF title
Yeah,
fight.
yeah.
Because okay, so you got Justin Gaethje 25-4 versus Max Holloway, who's 25-7. These odds are a little better. Okay, they're minus 170 for Gaethje, plus 140 for Holloway. They're both 5'11. Obviously, Holloway's coming up in weight. My only question would be, does that weight transcribe to 155? Because we've seen him move up, get hammered. I think he fought Poirier, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just don't know. Holloway's very good. Love him as a fighter. His division's 145, in my personal opinion. That is his division. That's what he excels in. But really quickly, Gaethje's last 5 fights, he's lost to Olivera, lost to Khabib, who we just talking a lot about.
Yeah.
He's beaten Michael Chandler. No surprise. Michael Chandler freaking loses everybody. I'm going to butcher the hell out of this name. Is it Fiziev? Fiziev, thank you. He got a majority decision. Oh, I didn't know he got a majority decision. Interesting. And then he KO'd Poirier. That was crazy. That was crazy. But it says Max Bless Express, dude. I like that. The Bless Express, dude. What does he call it? The third island, or was it the 7th island?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Vegas. You know, he retired the Korean Zombie. Sad.
Yeah, rough one.
Beat Allen, lost to Volk. I mean, Volk is his kryptonite. Everyone has that one guy. You know, Volk was his kryptonite. He beat Yair and he beat Kattar. Yeah, we talked about Kattar. That was crazy. That was just that was so one-sided. He isn't typically known to getting a lot of knockouts, especially of late. Yeah, he knocked out the Korean Zombie. I understand that, but that's not his forte. He's a fighter that's a lot of volume, goes out there, handles his own. I just think personally, I was like, I'll let you do your whole thing. So I'm sorry for kind of sharing ahead of time. For me, I just think it's hard for him to come up in weight, because we've already seen what happens when he comes up in weight, and it's nothing against him because I know he's a good fighter. It's just he's not that guy at 155. He's that guy at 145.
100%, man. I love Max Bless Holloway. I got to see him live do the right here in the middle of the ring with Ricardo Lamas. You know,
that was sick.
Yeah, dude, I got to love his rise, his basically record-breaking winning streak in the featherweight division. It was insane, right? I love the guy. I love him being, I'm the best boxer in the UFC, you know, dodging around Kattar and boxing him up. That's the fight I show a lot of people who are going to see fights for the first time, to just see the absurdity of what Max did and how bad he battered people in that. You know, unfortunately for him, Volk was his kryptonite, right? They had a close fight. First one, Volk got, you know, the edge on that. Second one, he could have arguably won. He made adjustments, brought a good fight. And then the third fight, Volk was just better, right? He tried to adjust, and then Volk was able to adjust with him and batter him the first way in the first fight and beat him clearer than any other, right? So Max, I think, felt, what else could he do? Volk was dominant in that division. Max continued to fight and just chip away at contenders in the 145.
Literally.
Yeah, he just became the second champion, beating everyone else in the division.
The people's champion.
Yeah, right? Like, he beat Arnold Allen, right? You know, Chancellor Young was a retirement fight, you know, give him an exciting one. Him being able to knock out the Korean Zombie was more about Korean Zombie's chin being gone than, you know, Max having power all of a sudden.
Right.
You know, but he did struggle more in a lot of these fights than he had before, right? He struggled, like, he has the most strikes landed on someone in the Kattar fight. Kattar also hit him for like almost 300 punches, I believe, right? Kattar hit an absurd amount of punches on him, even past all, you know, Max's dodging and talking smack to him, right? Kattar landed on him a lot. It's just, he was just so outdone, you know? Yair was really landing on Max, right? You got to see Yair's speed and length and kicks really making him struggle, and it made Max go to the takedowns. It really made him, he's like one of the only people to ever make him really use the wrestling threat. Arnold Allen, you know, Max Holloway is kind of beating him, you know, using the same skills. You get to see that, you know, Max is good at trying to adjust, and, you know, he has been a little bit more aware of trying to defend himself, use movement. But Allen really put it on him at the end, where it goes, Allen could have done that probably earlier in the fight and really gave Max trouble, right? So we're seeing Max is not the full Blessed Express he was, right? We have seen
it's crazy because he's only 32 years old. Like, we're almost talking about him like he's an older fighter.
Yeah.
And I think what it is he has so much mileage on him. If you want to talk about it in car terms, like, he has so much mileage on him and so many wars that he's been a part of. I don't want to talk about his brain, but, like, who knows? Like, and it's not like I'm not trying to be mean. It's just I love Max, but when you get into so many wars and you take so many shots, your brain can only handle so much. And I'm not saying that this is too far-fetched, because this is a great payday for him. This is a great fight. But he has no business at 155, man.
I agree, right? Where I think he went, what else is there? I think they were looking for big fights for 300, offered it to him. He went, all right, they're going to pay me. Let's do it. I can't do anything at 145 anyways. And then Volk got knocked out, right? Volk got obliterated by Topuria. And suddenly,
that was crazy, bro. That was so crazy.
Yeah, and suddenly the door was open for Max, and he can't go to it because now he has this dumb BMF title fight against Gaethje, right? Gaethje, the guy who has battered opponents, right? He was like he was in like the violent trio in the UFC lightweight division, right? Where him, Eddie Alvarez, Poirier, we're all just fighting of who is the most violent man in this division and in the UFC, right? He then adjusted. He took those early losses, tried to calm down his style a little bit. You know, we got to see when Khabib went full out on him, just chasing him around the ring. It worried Gaethje, right? Like, we get to see, you know, when against Olivera was able to come back and kind of batter him. We got to see against Chandler fight, he kind of went back to a little bit more of the brawliness after really hurting Chandler with his more reserved style, right? With Fiziev, we got to see him kind of get back to form. Fiziev is a very smart striker. You know, Gaethje was able to clearly beat him on that. I mean, majority decision, like I said, Fiziev is a great striker, did good work. But
a dub's a dub, man. A dub's
a dub. Yeah.
I mean, he won, though. That. Like, watching that fight, he won. Like, that's not... Yeah. I don't think that's disputed by anybody, so...
Oh, yeah. And then his Dustin fight, you know, came in with head kicks, you know, kind of... You know, crazy, he had used the kicks, so done stuff before, but yeah, just totally had that set up. You know, his team, Trevor Whitman, his coach...
Sick.
Top of the line team, right? That they've been trying to refine Gaethje now for a while. I think we're hitting Gaethje being able to calm it down, put it together, and I think that's bad for Max, right? Max is someone who wanted that volume, put that pressure on that, but to do that, he's really accepted taking a lot of shots. And even though he's going to be more defensive, I think he can really use some of the in and out movement, do all that stuff. But Gaethje's combination of known for leg kicks, right? Being able to do that to people really dedicates kicking the legs, right? He doesn't hit the body a lot, right? He won't punch the body. He'll straight headhunter people. Max will try to drain you. And Gaethje, when in those bigger fights, did get real tired, right?
But is it a 5-rounder or is it a 3-rounder?
It's 5. Ooh. So this is a bonus for Max, right? And if you see all what the fighters are saying, they are all real confident that Max's chin is going to hold up, right? They're betting on that. He's never been knocked down. Why do you think he's going to be knocked down now? You know,
10 pounds, dude. Bigger boys. That's just different.
And people go, well, the Dustin Poirier fight, he did that last minute. He didn't get to bulk up. And it was like, if you don't know about the weight classes and all that stuff, it's not like Max got to train for this fight for a year, right? It's not like he knew he was moving up and slowly put on weight. It's still only within like the training camp time that he basically got told, hey, this is the fight you're set up. Go for it. So you can try to put on weight, but it's not the same, right? It's a process to even just going up 10 pounds. There's a reason boxers do the super and lightweights in their process, right? They put on a few pounds, do a couple fights, you know, go up another few pounds, do a few fights.
Crawford's doing that right now. That's a perfect example of somebody who's doing that. Is testing
it really
himself.
Takes a bit to adjust your body and be at that same form to be able to
Look
do
at John.
it.
John's another great example of that. John's like, I'm going to take a year or two, bulk up, do some heavy powerlifting. I don't want to fight Stipe. I don't want to fight anybody until I feel like I'm ready and I'm on weight. And he's a big boy now. He's
He
big,
definitely,
he's a big boy.
I mean, he went on like my diet during that time, man.
Hey,
yeah. But Max, I don't think we're not going to see super ripped out Max all of a sudden. Like,
no.
He's still going to be most the same, a few pounds. He isn't going to cut as much, but it's not like his gas tank and cutting was ever the worry for him, really, right? And I think he's going against someone who every shot, this is what we saw with Poirier, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about every shot being a knockout shot. Is that suddenly when you move up in weight, every shot hurts a little bit more. Every shot pushes you back a little bit more. Every shot you hit them with doesn't hurt as much as you're used to hurting them with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting hit with a body shot for my brother one day, and it was like the first time I'd ever been hurt in the body, right? And it wasn't a big shot. It was nothing, right? He was, a couple weight. He was like, the 20 pounds above me. And I had been hit a lot, never concerned about getting hit. And I remember finally getting hit one day and went, oh, right? And just the sudden realization of like, man, those hits hurt more, right? Like it's a difference to like what I can do to what he can do, right? When you can feel it suddenly just stop you, right? And that's a big change, right? Dustin Poirier didn't just throw super power shots at Max when he beat him at 155. It really was Max getting hurt through little shots, and he was able to come back in that fight, really go to the body, wear out Dustin a little bit throughout it and survive it. But
Dustin was piecing him up, though. Dustin was piecing him up. And I think that's, for me, it's like, Gaethje, like, if you want to look at you want to look at all the factors, right? Where it's like, who's the power advantage? Gaethje. Who's the wrestling advantage? Gaethje. Everyone forgets.
Yeah.
Everyone forgets. He's a really good wrestler. That's why people don't wrestle him. And people forget that he has that in his tool bag. It's kind of like a Tony Ferguson. A lot of people don't like to wrestle him. Now you probably can, but back then, you don't wrestle Tony Ferguson. If you want to even look at significant strikes landed per minute, technically Gaethje has it over Holloway, which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
Considering how many shots Max throws in general, the significant strike landed advantage is higher too. Max does have great takedown defense, though. I will say that.
Yeah.
I don't think this fight.
Gaethje
I don't think
is
this
ever
fight's
going
on the
for
ground.
that takedown.
For what? I mean, he could, but I don't think Gaethje's going to get hurt in the fight enough to have to go to do that, to try to take him down and rest. I think it's going to be a banger. It's crazy. It's 5 rounds, but for me, I feel like Gaethje is going to do it. I think for sure he'll win 3 rounds. I think Max might come on strong at the end, but it's going to be a little too late.
Yeah, I think he's just going to absorb too much damage in that time, right? He's going to get hit to the legs. He's going to be taking shots, and I think each of those are going to chip away at him. And though he might be able to bring it back at the end, he might be able to do stuff to beat on Gaethje's body, try to drain him a bit. Gaethje comes in here more reserved like he has. That really kind of preserves part of his gas tank. And he just has to know that like every shot he does is more than Max.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with just Gaethje in general, I just think it's just too much. Gaethje hits too hard. I think this is the fight where if Max is going to get knocked out, this is going to be the one.
Yeah.
And it's not anything against Max. I love Max, but this is going to be the fight. This is probably one of the strongest hitters at the 155 division. If someone's going to knock you out, it's probably going to be Gaethje. Chandler is strong. He's not Gaethje strong. There's a difference.
Yeah, that's the difference, right? Chandler is so fast, explosive. He's gonna hit you with a
great
big
wrestler.
Yeah,
great wrestler too.
Great wrestler, right? I've got to see him live at Bellator fights. When he got to the UFC, he really went, "I'm going to be an action star," and really kind of went away from some of his.
He's doing that.
Wrestling.
He's doing that.
Yeah, right. Gaethje might not explode the same way, but just every shot he has weight. So I definitely am on that. My official pick. I am terrified to say this. I'm really unhappy. I think this, but I think this is the fight. Max gets TKO'd for the first time ever.
Yeah, and it's strictly because it's the weight. I think if they were fighting 145, it'd be a different story because that's Max's bread and butter.
Yeah,
and I think now with Topuria being there, this fight is not going to hurt Max regardless. It might set him back if he gets knocked out as far as like time of being out before he can compete again. But I do think he's still a top contender at 145. And I think that's also why he took it, because it was a win-win regardless. Yeah. But we got 2 more fights. I was like, sorry, I know this is a long podcast, but there's a lot to talk about because there's a lot of good fights. Well, Bo Nickal, I don't know about all that. But all the other fights are bangers. So the co-main event, is Weili versus Jan. I'm not even going to attempt her last name because I'm so bad with names. If you want to say your last name, I'll let you do it here.
Xiaonan.
Thank you. Weili is 24-3. She's a minus 550 favorite. Makes sense. Jan's 18-3. Both from China. And this is kind of at the top of the episode I was talking about. It's like one of the things that you noted in your notes, because I looked at your notes. And I also agreed with when I was looking at the card was like, why are you not doing this in China? That makes no sense. This is a main event fight in China, and you get to highlight all the Chinese fighters and make a crap ton of money and bring a whole lot more eyes to that market, which is a huge market.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe they didn't do it. It's a layup. It's a perfect layup for them to be like, hey, we're doing events in China. By the way, we can do the first ever all Chinese.
Maybe if it's a banger and it's a close fight, they do it again and they do it in China. Yeah. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
But I mean, Weili, she's only lost. I don't know who her first loss to, but she lost twice to Rose.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has their own kryptonite. And this is kind of the same recurring theme that we've said tonight is that everyone has their kryptonite. Weili just happens to be Rose, just like Rose has her kryptonite, but she knocked out J-Check, dude. That was crazy. I was just like, what? And then she submitted Esparza, makes sense. Yeah. And then she beat Lemos. I'm not really high on Lemos, but it was a 5-rounder. I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And Jan, she knocked out Andrade. I mean, the Andrade now, it's not the same Andrade. She beat Dern. She lost to Rodriguez, though, by split. It was close, but she did lose to Rodriguez. She lost to Esparza, so I guess she got the common opponent is Weili has beat Esparza, and Jan lost to her, and then she beat Claudia Gadella. Is that how I say it?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that name in a long time. That was in 2020.
That's just to show Jan's fight record, right? These are her last 5 fights. It goes back to 2020. Yeah. Zhang goes to 2021, right? Like with hers being more title fights, of course, they kind of fight a little less.
The level of competition is different. And the fact that 2 of those girls are fighting on this card that she lost to, right? Lost to? Or beat one, lost one. Yeah, beat one, lost one. Which is, it's interesting. I mean, on paper, just looking at it on paper, Jan is very good, yes. Zhang, in my opinion, is just on a different level, but I think it's going to be a highly competitive fight. I don't know if it's a 550 plus 375. Personally, I think I could see it minus 250 plus 175.
I can give it to the 300, right? Just because of when we looking at Jan's record, right? Her 2 wins to get to the title shot is Mackenzie Dern, who has shown her limitations over and over again. And Andrade, who got in her big... She wasn't the first person to beat Andrade. I think she's like the 3rd one, right? Like she was beating her in the losing streak, right? It was not a great... It wasn't like Jessica right after her title fight or anything, right? But she did improve a lot during the time. She took time to really work on stuff. And, I may talk smack on them a little bit for the Cody Garbrandt stuff of he never really got better under them for Team Alpha Male. But if you're going to learn wrestling and need to learn wrestling,
very true,
and you're in those lower weights, those size, Team Alpha Male is not a bad place to be at. And that's where Jan has been at this last while.
Or I'm going to throw a plug here. I'm going to throw a little plug here. Not just because it's a cousin of a cousin. I'll talk about you about that off stream or off the podcast.
Yeah.
Send him to Gilroy High School, bro. You want to learn wrestling? Go to Gilroy High School with one of the best wrestlers.
Daniel Cormier.
Cousin of a cousin. I haven't met him. Cousin of a cousin. But Daniel Cormier, his wrestlers coming out of there are sick.
It is, honestly,
sick.
For everyone on the podcast, we are in the Central Valley of California. And that's something where, like, you're in it.
I'm in it.
Yeah. One of the big things, Team Alpha Male is kind of a big thing for the area.
They are.
In that they really do accept and recruit people from the wrestling, like, teams all throughout California and all this area, right? Killishaw is from Sonora, right? Like, we have people in this area you could really like see go over there, and people whose goal then
Right.
is
Who
to get over
started
there
it?
and
You
build up,
got
right? Like that is an
Cody.
incredible thing, great thing to see. They have had limitations, right?
For sure.
With Dwayne
For
not
sure.
being there after he left, they never got another striking coach anywhere close to his
Right.
competency, right? They have never
Right.
been able to really build great strikers, great footwork, any of that. Great wrestlers, though. So someone like Yan, who was a great striker, bringing those skills in and really just had to kind of fill out some holes in her game, that it's made a difference, right?
Right.
She was able to like hold her own now. You know, Mackenzie Dern doesn't have great takedowns, but she is strong and will try to throw you around. She had no problem with that, right?
Right.
Andrade, the same thing. I mean, she was able to take her out very quickly, but in that preparation, she's doing the same stuff, building on that wrestling, and that's where I think is a really big difference for Zhang in this fight. That she's works with Cejudo, right? Like she has really built her wrestling, and it made a big difference for her fights, right? She really started to use it. She was able to just dominate Esparza, right? I don't think people had a lot of question of that
No.
leading
That
into it,
was
but man, like Esparza isn't nothing on the ground, right?
no, she's
She
not a
got
slob
to,
by any means. She's
yeah,
very
she
good.
got to
But
completely dismantle Lemos, right? Lemos is someone who also limited, can throw hard, good on the ground. Absolute no problems with her,
right.
right? And we've seen where they get into big striking wars, like her first fight with Ioana is one of the best fights of all time, right? They battered each other.
Was that her first
So,
loss?
I don't remember if that one is her. No,
I'll look.
She won that
She
fight.
beat. I think she. Yeah, I was like, I remember her winning, but she lost to somebody. Let me find. I'll look. You can keep talking. Sorry, I'll look.
Oh
Because I
yeah.
know somebody where. I don't know if it's going to show me.
No, I don't remember if it's if her loss was even in the UFC.
It
I
might
don't
have
know if
been
it's an older
before.
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it
I
might have
know
been
her two
before.
major losses were to Rose. The
Rose.
flash head
Yeah.
kick KO, and then came back for the rematch, and much closer. Right, we got to see
Very
they
close.
really made adjustments. Rose was able to hold it out to the end.
Arguably, she could have won. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
it is
it was
another
close.
contentious one.
Yeah.
What we got to see of Rose later is like Zhang has definitely still been a trajectory of doing better in fights than Rose ended up falling to with over time. But we did see Zhang has power. She knocked out Andrade when she was champion. Andrade came running at her and just totally disregarded it and got taken out immediately. But when we talk about those kryptonites, right, the long fighters, Joanna did give her a lot of trouble in the first fight. The second one, Joanna was still doing well and just, crazy back fist KO demolished her, right? But that kind of lengthy, more skilled striking gave her some trouble. Zhang can kind of fall to like wanting to sit, load, and throw a hard shot.
Right.
So Xiaonan being able to like use some more rangy, some more volume, kind of mess with her. I think the X factor, the big thing of the difference here is work on the ground, right? Weili Zhang has shown that she's willing to now use that wrestling, kind of dominate people that way, really complete her game out a lot more. And though Xiaonan has been improving it, I don't know if it's enough to be able to stop it each of those rounds, right? And I think
I completely agree with that, 100%.
Yeah, because even just having that threat changes the game up, right? If you have to be prepared to sprawl all the time, be prepared that you have to worry about getting to the clinch and eat up time again, right? It also opens up Weili to hit those big shots again.
Right. I just do think, like I kind of said at the top when I first introduced the fight, I think the odds should be a little closer. Obviously, on paper, no.
Yeah.
But the fight itself is going to be a lot closer than we think. Is Weili going to win? Yeah. Like, for sure. Like, I'm pretty confident with that.
Yeah.
I just think we're going to be surprised. It's going to be a lot closer than we thought.
I don't think Xiaonan is going to do a bad showing. I just think Weili Zhang is just one step above.
She's just not there yet. Yeah, she's just not there yet.
They're both 34, so like there's only so much more room. I think Zhang just got the good training earlier on to improve.
She had the opportunities to fight some of these good, tough fighters.
Yeah.
And, Jan might get there at some point. Just right now, though, Weili's at the top of her game. And it's just styles makes fights. It's going to be a good fight. But I think Weili wins 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, I feel
I think
that.
I think it goes all 5. No,
Yeah,
easy.
yeah. I don't think she can finish her. I think Xiaonan is competent enough to keep that from happening. I think she's good, but like I said, I think it just goes to Weili being the step up, picking her by decision.
Right, 100%. So the main event, I don't know how people online feel about this main event. It's not anything against the fighters, I guess. Like, they are both very good. I just don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm super biased because I really wanted McGregor to fight Chandler. I just really wanted him to come back. He did Roadhouse. I understand. He's crazy. He's, whatever it is that he's doing. I just wanted a big fight. That's a big fight. It doesn't matter. Conor McGregor against anybody is a big fight. And I feel like a lot of these fights that are happening before are big.
Well, that's what it feels about this for 300, right? When I said it earlier, when you look at the card top to bottom, incredible, right? But now we're at the main card. Weili Zhang versus Xiaonan.
It's a big fight.
Should have been in China, right? Like, it should have been a key mark
100%.
super fight there, right, for them.
Right.
Max versus Gaethje was originally propped up to be the main event, which is a weird one because the BMF title is nothing. It's a consolation prize.
But that fight is so...
Yeah.
That's a good fight.
Yes,
and as someone who wants to buy the pay-per-view, I'd be like, I'm going to buy that. Casual fans are going to like that because it's name value. BMF is just fun. And I think that's why people like it because it's like, oh, this is the baddest motherfucker. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Nate kind of talked it up and Jorge. And it's like you have this backstory behind it where it's like, it is the People's Champion belt. It's not a real belt, but it's like, I like it because of what it stands for and what it represents. Yuri and Rakic is a good fight. That's a great
It's a big deal, right?
Harrison and Holm is a big fight. I don't care. Davison and Figueredo and Kobe Garbrandt can be the first fight on this card.
Yeah,
Forget Bo Nickal. No offense to him. He's great. He's talented, but he's not fighting anybody good.
Yeah, just the caliber of what we have here.
Need to be pushed up.
We have an embarrassment of riches in this card, right? It's great to see. It's weird when you have to think about it. And what you pay for is only these 5 fights, right?
Right.
And how does those 5 fights compare to history, right? When they brought this up as this is going to be the greatest card of all time, right? It's better than UFC 200. That's 100% sure. UFC 200 had its curses going on that kind of gave that issues, right?
Right.
But when you think of what is the big key mark event everyone wants to see, I don't think people thought Pereira versus Jamal Hill.
You honestly, and I don't want to be mean, you know who I would have rather seen fight, and it's nothing against Hill because he's talented. I'll get into how I feel about his other stuff right now in a second, his loss more particularly. Yeah. I would have rather seen Izzy freaking move up and fight Pineda at 205. That's what I would rather have watched.
That one has drama, right? That is their legendary rivalry, right?
Let's get this partnership of WWE and UFC together. Let's have the writers start making some stories.
They already did.
What's that?
It's called TKO now, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I'm just saying, like they merged, right? Like we might see these more of these crossovers. Maybe CM Punk comes and tries to lose again. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation for another day. Phil Brooks. But to me, Izzy and Pineda would have been a bigger fight than Pineda and Hill. Yes, Hill deserves a shot. Yes, he came back because I think he got injured, right? That's what happened. Yes. So, he deserves it, and so I'm not taking anything away from him. It's just like when you put on a big main event, you're thinking Brock Lesnar. Not saying he's coming back, but I'm saying those are the kinds of people.
I hope not.
No, I hope not either. But I'm saying that those are the kind of names, the name value, right? You want to bring somebody in and be like, this is the main event. That's why Conor was so intriguing. It's because it's Conor McGregor. And I'm not saying Conor deserves to be a main event slot. He's not a championship caliber fighter at this point. But the name value alone is what draws in the masses to make the money. Yes, top to bottom, great fights. Right? But not everyone has UFC Fight Pass. Not everyone is going to be able to be off of work at 3, 5 o'clock to watch these fights. Some people might work until 6, 7 o'clock. So for me, I don't know. It's like, is it a good main event? Yes. But to me, I feel like they could have done this better.
As a big fight fan who keeps up with fighters, do all this stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a cool fight. I said, not the match that it seemed like it was propped up to be.
Right.
But we'll go over it. We'll see what we think about it.
Yeah, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. It's still a great fight, but this isn't a fight
Yeah.
for the casuals. This is a fight for you have to be in the nitty gritty and understand the backstory. Yeah, more people are knowing about Pereira, but not a lot of people know a lot about Hill. Like, just call it for what it is. But Pereira's 9-2. You probably have heard of him. You've probably seen the Izzy fights. Izzy's a big name. Pereira, I think, what did he lose to Izzy twice, or he beat Izzy? No, he beat Izzy.
Yeah,
he lost to Izzy. That's what it is. They're 1-1, right?
His other loss is longer ago.
That's the early on when he just transitioned from kickboxing into MMA. But and then Hill, he is on a 4-fight win streak. Obviously, he got hurt to injury, so he never technically lost his belt. And I think that's where it's like, yeah, he does deserve a shot at the belt. They should have never took it from him, but but he did lose to Paul Craig by knockout in the first round.
Well, it was by his arm being dislocated.
I mean, but it's still a knockout. I mean, he still couldn't continue to fight. Sean O'Malley
he tried
lost.
It's a weird
loss.
It's one of those that like they don't put it as
accident.
A submission.
No, I know.
He was in that submission. Though. Craig broke his arm, and then like he was just like Craig was like his arm's broken. It's gonna be done. And then Hill was like still trying to fight him with his broken arm flopping around. Right? And they finally ended it and went like TKO, but it should be the injury thing, right?
Right.
I don't know. A true TKO on the record should be there. He didn't bang out.
No, but I mean, still though, it's like he still has that loss. But still, like, I guess too, like if I look at his fights, his level of competition isn't like Pereira's either.
Oh,
and I think you don't think so? You think so?
No, I don't. I don't think it's up there. Jimmy Crute, serviceable. No. Nothing special. Johnny Walker has shown himself to have the issues, right? He's the one who like springboard knocked out Johnny Walker, right? He's a silly, vulnerable guy.
And Thiago Santos is good, but nothing crazy.
Yeah,
he's not. I'm saying he's not
down.
Tier, but I'm saying he's not. Yeah, he fought John Jones, and that's his most notable thing is that he went toe to toe. I mean, if you want to call it toe to toe.
Here's the thing, right? I would have given Thiago did really good in that fight, and if he didn't blow up both of his knees in that fight, I think he would have won it, right?
But
fair. He literally, within the fight, demolished both of his knees. And when he came back, never the same. This is already in Thiago's return tour of being more gun-shy, not really having all the power and charisma he had. Not the same man. The person he beat was not who it was.
But that's what I'm saying, though. He's good, but he's not a star. He beat Glover. Yeah. Glover's old, though, for all things. Glover's good. Yeah, he had the belt and stuff, but Glover's not. He's over the hill. And, like, just call it for what it is.
He was like 42 at the time, right?
Yeah, 42,
Glover
43.
was just removed from having the title, but, I mean, he beat it from other old guy, Jan Blachowicz, right? He ended up blowing out. But, like, Glover's end of the career was that, like, he still was all right boxing, still all this stuff. He took a lot of hits and was basically just like, well, I might be able to outlast people and then, take them down. And then he had great grappling, great submissions, good ground and pound that he would beat them out from there. But Jamal Hill showed, he had the takedown defense, was able to stall it out and just batter Glover the entire fight.
Right. He's also a big boy at 6'4". I mean, they're both big boys. Both of them are 6'4". But I think the big one for me is that Pereira literally knocked out Yuri. And I'm like really high on Yuri.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's like, okay, like he's beaten Izzy, who Izzy is great. I mean, obviously Izzy at 205 is not it just because Izzy has his advantages at 185. But Izzy's a great, all-time great fighter. In my opinion, I don't know how you feel about him, but I think Izzy's an all-time great fighter.
He is
Sean Strickland's
the
a champion now. I don't know how I feel about Sean Strickland. Strickland's very beatable. He just had a really good fight against Izzy. I don't know how motivated Izzy is. I'm not making excuses for Izzy. That's just what I saw. It was weird. It was just a weird fight to watch. It was just weird. It was just a weird fight to watch. I don't know if that happens again if they fight, but that might be a conversation for another day. But I just think Pereira has the power. They both have the power, but Pereira's background and his experience with kickboxing, obviously he has that into the UFC. His weak point is wrestling, which Glover is working on him with. I just wonder if Jamal Hill is going to try to expose that and wrestle him. Because if Hill can wrestle him, we might be saying something different. But if Hill's going to try to bang one out with Pereira's going to knock him out.
Yeah, I think that's where it kind of leads to. Because one of the other big X factors of this, Jamal Hill is coming back from a ruptured Achilles, completely off the bone, in less than a year, right?
And no warm-up fight.
Yeah, there is nothing in between. He is just coming in to this, which is pretty risky, if you ask me, for that type of injury, right? You know, he did have some good speed. He was very athletic. He wasn't the most refined striker, but he did have good feeling of it. He had good feeling for timing, being able to kind of throw some stuff out, wait for people to kind of come at him, land a big shot. You know, he did have power. He, you know, in that tour of beating people who weren't too great, you know, he was blowing them out the water, right? What would have made me more confident in this if he would have KO'd Glover, but he, you know, battered him. And there's times where you feel like he probably could have pushed it a little bit to finish it. But I think he was kind of worried for that takedown, worried for that. And I think he was pretty content to do it, to just kind of get that decision in. But he does have some good things that kind of match up for Pereira, where I think Pereira is much more vulnerable at light heavyweight, right? At
For sure.
middleweight, he's a giant monster, right? You know, he's super tall, super big, super long reach.
But his chin isn't there at middleweight because he has to suck
he has to
himself
cut down
so
more.
dry that I think like that's why because Izzy isn't the biggest power puncher.
So,
I mean, he's not, but I think because he was so sucked up, because he normally, I think at kickboxing, he was fighting at like 205, 215.
He fought it all across those divisions. He did middleweight.
But he was bigger. He was like a bigger guy. Like naturally, he walks around bigger. And I think his chin's going to be better at this. Yes, they hit harder, but I think that weight cut, again, so that weight cut's what, at least another 20 pounds? That's a lot. I think that's the biggest gap between a lot of the divisions. It's 20 pounds.
Yeah. It is a weird one where, like, I really wonder what his actual walk around weight is at. You know, a lot of people
like 225, 230. I think
because I could imagine somewhere around there, and that isn't actually like people who don't know about weight cutting. Right. We'll use a quick example. Right. I remember online people lose their mind about something like Dustin Poirier. Be like, he's so big for 155. Right. He's huge. He can be a welterweight. Right. Yeah. He's like, he walks around at like, he says he walked around at like 190 or something. Right. And it's like, you don't know. That's not actually crazy. Right. Like if you talk about walking around when he's not dieting and do all that stuff.
Right.
By the time you diet, you do that, you know, get down a little bit, just without the water cut. You could probably get to the 175, right? 20 pounds to 15 pounds on water cut for 155 isn't dangerous, right? That is a pretty average thing. We get to see from the California cards how much people rehydrate and are able to do that.
Right.
A bigger guy like him going down 20 pounds of water isn't big, right? Even if you got to 30, you know, pounds, we got to see Rumble do stuff like that. You know, he was big and,
Rumble,
you know, he did suffer from that. But even
Rumble's
at light heavyweight, he was doing that
yeah.
stuff where he was even at light heavyweight, cutting to get there, right?
Right.
Not absurd, not undoable. You know, I think it's probably pretty comfortable for Alex to cut down to 205. But with that, we talk about all the light heavyweights we talked about today. They're all 6'4", all 6'3", all close to reach. And I think he's someone who's really used that to his advantage for a long time, right? He did get knocked out in kickboxing. He's not unbreakable, right? We got to see in his fight with Jiri, he really did kind of use a bad guard. Well, you know, bad is subjective, right? It's all about how things are used. But he really did have moments when Jiri was swinging on him, kind of stick his hands out and just try to intercept the hits. So, you know, that can be played on if you know he's going to do it. In that Jiri fight, he controlled the range well. He waited for Jiri to kind of get in. Jiri's someone who has kind of weird movement. Blasted him with leg kicks, right? Really threw him off, had him thinking about that, punished him coming in. Jamal Hill does different type of movement. He's not as weird as Jiri, but he still uses some in and out. He does that. And now he has a possibly vulnerable leg, you know, to a guy who is a prolific leg kicker, right?
Well, and is he going to have that movement, that footwork off that leg? And I think that's another factor to consider. But I think for me, the biggest thing that I'm looking at is your level of competition, just career. And Pereira has fought a lot. He has a lot of experience. That's why he can be 9-2. And, you know, he was like, what, 8-0 or whatever it was when he fought Izzy. It's like he can come in and fight for a belt because he has all this experience, all this championship experience. K1 boxing is a big deal. It's not as big in the United States, but it's a big deal. Like a lot of the Holm is a perfect example of that. Like I think it's K1, right? That's what it's called.
Well, he was in Glory.
He was in Glory,
Alex. Yeah,
but I mean, Holm came out of that same space. Is what I'm saying is that's the reason why Holm got that same opportunity is because she had obviously had boxing too.
I mean, also Adesanya.
Right, perfect. Another example is like you have a lot of this experience where you're fighting consistently, and I mean, I don't want to get into anime and all that, but you know that the more you fight, the more experience that you gain, the better prepared that you are, and the better you know your weaknesses and your strengths. And I think Alex is going to come out personally. I think he's going to come out, and I think Jamal gets really hurt and he gets knocked out. And that's just personally what I think.
Yeah, Pereira has so much more refined striking, right?
Striking's next
level. He has the left hook of death, right? He does have power in both hands, right? It's not just the left hook, but he has a feeling for that. He has a feeling for the kicks and range. He really punish you when you come at him, right? If you're just walking, he will land on you. Jamal Hill does have some tools, right? When you fight a kicker, kicking at them does help. He has some good kicks, right? He might be able to do that to kind of throw off Pereira. Like I said, if he's at 100%, you know, he is quick. He can land some shots. I think he does hit hard enough to potentially hurt Alex too, right? Sure. He does have power in his hands and legs. But I think the injury, not having a fight in between, and not really fighting anyone of that same caliber really puts too many questions to be confident in Hill, right? I think he's definitely has the potential, but he was able to defensively wrestle. We never seen him offensively do it. Is he going to be able to put that on Alex? Does he have that in his pocket?
That's going to be his game plan to win, is that if he can wrestle Alex and get him down, he can win the fight on a decision. I don't know if he knocks him out though.
Yeah, we got to see. I think he could, even with that plan, right? Because we got to see with Jan, taking him down, really also limited still his stand-up, right? He wasn't opening up the same way, right? He wasn't able to put pressure. He wasn't able to batter Jan as much, right? I think that does mess with the math a little bit. And if he can have Alex be more tentative and kind of leave himself a little bit more open, he takes hits, right? Like Jamal could start landing those bigger shots. He can do
Jamal
stuff.
Actually lands more strikes per minute than Alex does. But
part of the math is the knockouts.
Yeah, like to me, it's just like it's just different. Like the thing is he can throw 7 to 5 shots, but I'm taking Pineda's 5 shots over Jamal's 7 shots. And because Alex is precise. It's like he knows exactly where to hit you, and he knows it's going to hurt you. And then once he hurts you, that's it.
Oh yeah,
that's it. I mean, that's just the truth. I mean, we've seen it time and time again on most of his fights. Besides, I remember now. He lost his first fight. That's what it was.
Oh yeah,
he lost his first fight. And he got wrestled, so he had no wrestling, and that's what it was. Now that I remember, it's been a long time, but like. That to me is just truly where it's at. It's like, who's a refined striker? They're most likely going to strike. I really don't think Hill goes out there. Hill has that mindset where I'm going to freaking beat you at your own thing just to prove to you that I'm the man, because he has like that chip on his shoulder. As you can see him at all the fights, freaking yelling, and he has his podcast, and I don't know the name of it, but you can go check that out. I just think Pereira goes in there. Pereira right now is in his prime. Hill's still, I mean, he's 32, but he's very young in the game. I don't know. So I didn't even talk about the odds. So the odds are -130 to +110, which is pretty close. Probably the closest out of anything. Out of all these cards, that's the closest fight.
It is one of the closest. I believe we had one that was like almost even.
What did we have one? I think there was one at +100, right? Is that what it was? Yeah. I forget who that was. I was like, I'm just gonna look just because we're here,
Yeah.
Oh, it's the freaking Yuri fight, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That should not be +100. Yuri should be favored, like easy.
Yeah,
like
I think it's a lot of doubt for Yuri.
Yeah, that's crazy. But But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm taking Alex at minus 130 all day. Honestly, I'm taking Alex by knockout. If I'm able to
I would
put
go
that,
Alex by knockout. I like if it's going all those rounds. I think he's
and I don't think it
it.
goes 5 rounds. No way.
Yeah,
Regardless, for
I
either
think
one of
he
them, I
can
don't think it
hurt
goes
the
5 rounds.
movement. He can land big shots. Like I said, I think Jamal Hill at his best could be a good fight in this, right? He shouldn't be counted out. He's not. He shouldn't be at like minus 500, minus 300, right?
Right.
All that would be absurd. He is good, but there's so many questions of how is he going to come back. It just leaves that door open to where if he's a step slower, it's going to
He's
get
knocked
hit.
out.
Yeah.
He's gonna get knocked
If he's
out.
a step slower and can't land with the same power,
Right.
getting nailed.
Right. 100%. But yeah, so that's the UFC 300 card. Kind of like I said at the top of this, it's this Saturday, April 13th at 7 p.m. Pacific, because you got the East Coast people. If you want to check out the prelims, I was like, I will scroll down and tell you that is at 3 o'clock. UFC Fight Pass. It's on ESPN at 5 o'clock for the first fight, which will be said was Yusuff versus Lopes. These are some great fights, stack card, questionable positions for some of these fights, but if you want to listen to our spiel, go ahead and rewind that. But man, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. We talked a lot. We talked a lot.
Yeah.
We got really into it on the technical side and really on the fan side of things. Because I mean, I'm sure our opinions are not also just our own. I'm sure a lot of people feel this way as well. But again, I kind of want to let you have a moment to kind of shut out your thing again, just because like we did off the top, and then I'll go into closing and we'll go from there. So,
all right. No, it was great to be on, right? I've been a fight fan basically my whole life, watching it from my grandparents' house to now. So I'm glad to be able to talk about it, go through all the stuff. And like I said, I can nerd out with it. So the other stuff I do like to get into, do stuff with the Village Geeks, where we do some video games, do some Magic, do some card games, do some silly stuff sometimes. So on Cinco de Mayo, we'll be releasing our edited videos. But otherwise, we do stream on Twitch at the Village Geeks. And you can see me play Dark Souls for the first time and struggle with it on Sundays. So Soul Sundays, the hashtag Get Good with Steven.
That's awesome. Thank you for coming on. And again, everybody, for those who really like and subscribe, we greatly appreciate you. If not, please like and subscribe. We have a website. It's www.instinctfilter.com. Any of our interviews and any of our podcasts that we do, I upload myself directly to the website, so you don't have to go searching for them. So you can check that out. We do have some more merch coming out. That's to stay tuned. Obviously, you see, Bebble's not around no more. If you're trying to figure out what's going on with Bebble, text him, message him, hit him up. I am interested to see what he says. I will not reveal why he's not here. I'm going to let him do that. I still love my cousin. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for sticking around. Until next time, everybody. Later.
Peace out.